G'day, welcome to Deep and Meaningfuls with Furzey. My guest on today's episode is the wise and handsome Sergio Perera. Serge is actually a mate of mine from back when I lived in Los Angeles. I met him through the Hemsworth brothers. I think it was Liam. Yeah, Liam invited me over one time for a dinner. And when I got there, he said, this is my mate Serge. He's going to cook for us. And I was like, great. I just thought he was one of his mates. And Serge proceeded to cook this delicious gourmet meal. And I was like, wow, man, you're really good at this. You're a great cook. And he's like, oh, thanks, man. Very humble guy. And then it was only after that I found out that he's actually a professional chef and he's been doing it his entire life and he's actually quite a big deal. So yeah, Serge knows food. He's a real artist. And if you get a chance, check out his Instagram because he's got some beautiful stuff on there. I have to apologize. I had some technical difficulties in this podcast. Halfway through, about an hour and 10 minutes, my microphone stopped recording and I was able to salvage the rest of the conversation from the audio from the cameras. It doesn't sound good. It's listenable, but it's not great. So, Serge, I'm really sorry, man. I wanted to keep the rest of the conversation in the podcast because there's some really fascinating stuff, especially when Serge was telling me all about his adventures in Japan and the culinary wizardry that he learned from the Japanese. So I've kept it in. If you can deal with the bad audio quality, I think it's worth a listen. But again, really sorry. Anyway, here's my conversation with Sergio Perera. It's nice to see you, man.
Yeah, likewise.
It's been quite a while.
How long has it been?
At least 10 years.
Because we were both living in LA at the time.
Yeah.
So that would have been, 2015? 26? When did you leave? Might have been.
I left just before COVID, actually.
Oh, okay. So you were there quite a bit longer because I left 2015, I think.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And did you come here?
No, I went with Chris Hemsworth.
Okay.
I went and helped him on Avengers in London. That would have been 2015, 2016. That was the second Avengers that he was filming. And that's when I chose to go. I had actually just bought a place in downtown LA, which I loved. And which is funny because I lived in LA for 8 years off and on, 9 years off and on. It was a city that I was never able to adapt to it. It was I tried so hard to like it, but I couldn't. I don't know if it was the energy, if it was the constant shape shifting I had to do when I was there with different people or different, things that I was doing. I did love the cultural aspect of it all. That I love, like the food, obviously. Food scene there is insane. And look, I met some incredible people when I was there. Obviously, I met you, I met Dan, I met all the boys.
I get what you mean, though. That town, there's something odd about it. Like, for me, I think it's just an energetic thing. Like, I mean, physically, it's filthy. But you can get past that, right? But I think that's a result of the energetic thing. Like it just feels socially desperate.
Well, is it? And that's why they call it the city of Los Angeles, isn't it? It's it is. There's always this kind of emptiness that I've felt when I was there.
Yeah,
but at the same time, I was finding quite a bit of inspiration because there's a lot of creatives there. People go there Los Angeles isn't a city that you think of, I'm going to move to Los Angeles to have a family and get married. You go there. No, I'm going to
chase my dreams.
There. Yeah, I'm going to see what I can do or see what I can achieve, especially if you're a creative.
Yeah, but it's full of that.
Yeah,
and but the thing about that is there's a lot of chaos with that.
Yeah,
that's where the creative inspiration comes through a chaotic energy, and it's unbalanced. I think that's what it is. Like you're totally right. There's so many people that go there to follow their dreams and to make something of themselves. Yeah, but there's no plan because you can't make a plan for that. You're kind of at the mercy of what opportunities come your way and what opportunities you can create.
Yeah.
So it is chaotic.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I've met some people who go there chasing a dream, right? But I've met or known some who go there and get even more lost.
Oh, totally.
To the point where they have to leave. You know, and it's because it is draining unless you figure out how to tap into it. then it will empty you.
I think that's I think that's a majority of people that go there. Like I've got friends that are still there.
Yeah.
I've been gone for how long? 4 or 5 years now? 5 years. And they're still in the same lifestyle, exactly the
same cycle.
And I was in that. Like me and my wife were there, and it's this like time loop that you just kind of. I guess it's because one analogy that I've used for it before is it kind of feels like you're in a room full of people trying to get noticed, but you're all trying to get noticed. Yeah. So everyone's jumping up and down, going, "Look at me, look at me." But no one.
It's so true. It's so true. And I mean, look, you were doing quite a bit of acting there at the time, weren't you?
Oh look, I wouldn't say quite a bit. I was definitely doing some. I was doing. It was the ball was slowly rolling for me, ever so slow enough to keep me there. Yeah, because I was there for like 11 years.
Yeah, right.
So, wow. But it was, and there was momentum happening, but it was kind of painful because it was moving slow enough to keep me there, but not fast enough to be fulfilling. Yeah, I was spending a lot of my time unemployed, not unemployed, but working in whatever I could get,
or just hustling. Yeah. I mean, look, I was in obviously food, so it was a different thing for me, but still, it was interesting because even though you were in a different profession, let's say outside of Hollywood. A lot of the businesses were still affected by Hollywood.
Yeah,
everything. Everything.
Everything in that city is.
Yeah,
I think
which I found interesting. Because like even if you had, for example, a brand new up and coming restaurant, it would become famous or popular because of the so and so would go there. Not because of the food. I shouldn't say not because of the food. It was because, like I said, there's incredible food. But it wasn't so much of that, which is why a lot of the restaurants in LA had they wouldn't last very long. Most of them will probably last, if they were really good, probably last maybe 5 years.
Well, if they were smart, they'd put a bunch of photos on the walls of which celebrities
exactly, which tend to be the ones that last the longest, right? You look at places like in New York City or delis in LA, either one. You see, there are these very old spaces that have never been touched or redesigned. Yeah. And you have this like wall of actors who have been in there, or musicians or politicians. And it tends to be the ones that kind of outlast. But I mean, I haven't been back since the pandemic, so I have no idea. I hear from some people that it's changed a lot.
Yeah, I was chatting to a good friend who's still there, and he's planning on leaving.
Yeah, a lot
he's
of
an Aussie
left.
guy. Yeah, he's planning on coming home.
Yeah.
But he said this was the situation for him. So he's up on right near where where the Laugh Factory is. Up on is that on Sunset or Hollywood?
On Sunset.
Yeah. So he's just down that street,
right,
just off there.
Yeah.
So he's kind of in
West Hollywood area. Yeah.
And he and that area was always pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah.
So his issue recently was that he was chased up the stairs in his apartment building by some dude.
Wow.
And he called the cops, and the cops refused to come. And the reason that they wouldn't come was because he had a weapon, but he couldn't tell them whether it was a gun or a knife.
Right.
So because they didn't know, the cops wouldn't come. So it's that bad. It's gotten to the point where it's just
where the cops kind of just throw their hands up and say,
we can't. We've got too much shit to deal with.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's another thing, isn't it? Like everything you look at what's happened just in the last. I mean, look, LA has always been an interesting place for many reasons, but the pandemic really did some damage to it. So many people moved to Austin.
They did,
like Austin is like the new LA now.
Yeah.
Like so many, you've got Joe Rogan, all these actors that have moved there, which is a great city. It's a great city for food, for music. Yeah, I've been there many times. I love Austin. If I had to live, there's very few places that I would live in the States if I had to live there again. But Austin's definitely one of them.
Really?
I love New Orleans because especially New Orleans, it's got so much soul. When you talk about soul, that has got incredible soul. Music, food, people are beautiful. And look, New York, even though it's very hard and grungy, there's a depth to it that you can't compare to any other city in the world. And I like that, Yeah. I think as I've gotten older, though, it's, I do require a bit of peace as well. You know,
Sure.
like when you're younger, you thrive in the chaos.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I think now it's
Well,
nice.
you almost don't even feel it.
Well, yeah, exactly. You just plow through.
yeah.
But now, as I've gotten older, like, you know, living now, like the life I live now, I live between Byron Bay and Sydney, so it's I get both worlds. You know, I get my dose of city, and then I get my dose of beauty and relaxation. You know? But yeah, coming back to Austin, Austin's an amazing place. I can see why so many people move there after that. But it's, for a lot of people that I spoke to, it hasn't been the same.
Yeah, I think it's always been a chaotic town, as we were just saying. But I think that it also appeared as though the measures that were put on that city and its people by the government were just so intense compared to somewhere like Austin and compared to a lot of other places. Yeah. So and it just went on for ages. So it's like, it's just messed with people by the sounds of things.
Well, also the poverty it's bad. There was always an issue with it, but it got even worse. Yeah. I used to live in Venice Beach for a while, and right behind Abbot Kinney. Mm-hmm. And then
beautiful. Like if you see that on TV shows all the time.
Man, it was such a fun place. Yeah. And I think it was a couple of years ago, a friend of mine who still lives there sent me a photo of the boardwalk, and it was just rows of tents of people who I didn't even recognize it anymore. It's crazy. I mean, you look at California in general. I mean, the same thing is happening in San Francisco. Some places are just not even livable anymore because of the amount of poverty and crime. It's crazy what's happened, man. All this, you know, especially post-COVID, and the crazy thing is no one even talks about it anymore.
Yeah. Well, because I think it's such a difficult problem to fix. Like if you've been around it, even for a minute, it's really confronting. I one time when I was living in LA, went to do an audition for a film the audition happened to be, so the audition was, I got an address. Yeah. And I don't know LA, so I put the address into my phone and I drove to the address to do the audition. And I'm all nervous, and it was a call back with the director, so I was like, it's getting close. Yeah. And I'm like, we're going downtown. And I'm okay, cool. So then I end up pulling up, and I'm like, I'm in fucking Skid Row. Yeah. Oh, man. And I'm like, and so I park, and I'm like, okay, this feels like a mistake. Just parking my car, because when you're around it, there are people. It's it's anarchy.
Yeah, it's like being in the wild.
Yeah, there are people just like pretty much naked on the middle of the street, yelling things, and like there's tents everywhere. Visibly, people are intoxicated on whatever the hell they're on. It is volatile, man, and it's like it's frightening. And this is, you know, I'm a fully grown man. Yeah. Like it's a fucking frightening environment to be around. It's
crazy. And imagine that during the pandemic though. Yeah. I mean, I can't even imagine what that must have been like, you know, and it got.
Well, people who were on the edge, anyone who was close to the edge of having a hard time or having addiction problems or mental illness problems or any of the above, forget it. Oh, man. If they couldn't get out, they're gone. They're on the street.
Yeah. It was insane. It really was. And now it's, you know, I mean, it's, you know, it's like a tornado. Like the damage is still there. Yeah. But the crazy thing is, like, no one really talks about it. It's almost like this thing that people don't want to talk about, or
well, you would be ashamed of it, right?
Ashamed.
As a city, there must be ashamed.
Exactly. Either for a variety of reasons, you know. There's a lot of theories about it, but yeah, it's crazy. I definitely think that, you know, there's a lot of things that we weren't told, which makes it even worse. You know, it's like, well, why are we experiencing the size of this horrific thing? Yet, I don't know. There's a lot of there wasn't a lot of clarity on the way the whole thing happened. You know what I mean? I definitely think I feel we got hoodwinked in a lot of ways, man. I think we there's a lot of truth that wasn't shared, and there's a lot of fear that was pumped through all of us.
It was fear. I absolutely agree.
It's crazy, and no other time in history has has this happened? It's crazy.
Well, I think that it has, but it's never been. They've never been able to reach people like this.
There's
true. Been propaganda all throughout history, but we're so connected.
Well, now it's even more so because of social media, because of the access of all the technology, and we can reach others quicker, faster, better. So now we
and people become like innocent bystanders, become perpetrators of sharing it because they're scared. You scare people enough, and they'll spread the message better than anyone else can, better than whoever the hell's coming up with it. But it was what a fascinating thing to have lived through. Man. Like,
well, and to say that you survived. I mean, it's like, I heard horror stories. Obviously we all have friends that lost businesses, and like especially for me, like in the hospitality industry. I mean,
there must have just been
they
many.
were obliterated. It was, people who had empires of restaurants all shut down.
Oh, yeah, well, I was going to say even just, the single restaurant, someone who's like, I'm going to start a cafe or a restaurant.
Well, exactly.
They're fucking gone.
It didn't matter how big or how small you were. It was just completely eliminated. And, it was really great to see how the hospitality industry kind of really supported each other, though, because a lot of them still managed to get by, figure it out, come up with ways of doing, obviously takeaway was the only option. Either that or just close up. But there was takeaways, and there was other forms of creating or bringing that restaurant feel to your home. I mean, that was the only thing you can do.
That was it.
But when it comes to a lot of the stuff that I worked in, because a lot of what I did was mostly fine dining. So those were the first ones to shut down, because it's like, well, people go to that to get entertained. It's not your everyday restaurant.
It's not a necessity.
Right.
It's a luxury thing.
Right. Exactly. You're going there to experience something. And so a lot of these really suffered, but even those were managed to kind of be creative and figure out ways to survive, And I think after that, like with many businesses and many industries, it's completely evolved now. I mean, the restaurant industry has always been fragile. It's always been a very tough business to be in. And now even more so because of what's happened. So a lot of chefs, I think, are trying to rethink how to approach gastronomy, hospitality. They're, at least for me, what I've realized with my profession is it's not good enough anymore to just be a chef, to just be able to cook. You've got to be someone who not only cooks, but who understands farming, agriculture, science. You need to understand all those. You're not only cooking, but you're sort of a teacher as well. And I think, in my personal opinion, I think that that is the future chef. That's what the future chef looks like. It's not going to be enough to just be a chef at a restaurant and expect to have a normal life, because especially now more than ever, there's the importance of balance in that industry is becoming, people are becoming aware of it. Because before, I mean, look, I've been doing it for 27 years. I've never worked less than a 16-hour day in my life, 16 to 20 hours. And grueling hours, it's a tough, career to be in. It's a tough profession.
It really, it is amazing. You're talking about like being in the kitchen.
Being in the kitchen, yeah. It's like mentally, physically.
It's so stressful, man.
Everything about it. It's.
Why do you think that is?
Well, you're talking about a craft, right? A lot of people, there's this, kind of argument. Is it a craft? Is it an art? Well, I mean, and there's a fine line where the two cross. But I think ultimately it is a craft. Think about how cooking got started to begin with. It started out of survival. We needed to survive, to hunt, to eat. So that's how it all started. And then it evolved into this thing where it was a social aspect to it all. And then, that's how restaurants were born, and throughout Europe, and the whole concept of cooking and nurturing people and bringing people into this social environment to celebrate. That's really what it was. But I think as time went by, people as with any craft, you know, there's people that do things differently or better, and then there's this natural kind of, you know, element of competition or being, you know, advancing in innovation where, you know, there's a demand for certain things, and then, you know, and then people start going to one, it starts to kind of lose its luster because somebody else is doing something better, and then they go to that. So, you know, that creates this competition. And I mean, just think about the process of cooking in general. Like, you know, if you're just a normal cook at home, not doing it as a profession, I mean, think about the amount of time it takes you to do a really beautiful roast. It'll take days,
and it's so easy to fuck it up.
Right? Well, yeah, exactly. Like, it'll take you a good 5-6 hours to make a beautiful roast, and then you sit down and it gets consumed within 30 minutes. It's like, well, wait a minute, what just happened?
Yeah,
but I think it's a labor. It really is a labor of love, and there's so many steps. There's so many things you need to do, especially, you know, hundreds of years ago where you had to get it all yourself.
Yeah,
you had to, you know,
literally go out and get
your own vegetables, get your own fish or whatever you had near you, hunt for it, whatever it was, and there was time to do it. You know, you had to do it all in a certain way and with a certain time, and then you know, you put it in a modern environment. Well, then now there's time constraints, you know, because people are paying. It's like going to the theater. You know, people are paying a price to have this experience, and it's all within a few hours. You know, a couple of hours or whatever the experience is. So there's that pressure. There's the pressure of getting it within that time frame. There's the stress of making sure it's perfect. You know, that everything about the whole experience is done flawlessly. Yeah. And there's that pressure, you know, and then you've got someone leading it, you know, the chef, who's kind of the captain of the ship, you know, who has this very clear vision of what it needs to be and how it needs to be. And that needs to be repeated 100 times. Yes. You know, that's the thing.
Quality control. That's the pressure. This is the dish. Well, this needs to go out every time.
So that's the pressure. So you can imagine the amount of anxiety and fear and, you know, trauma that a lot of cooks.
Here's something else that's on top of that.
Yeah.
It's uncomfortable. You go into a kitchen, it's hot, it's bright, it's fucking loud.
Yeah.
And it is usually pokey.
Yeah.
It is just physically.
Yeah.
Immediately just being in there, it's like, okay, it's not a comfortable place. Yeah. It's, you know, you compare it to out in the dining area. Oh, usually there's music, there's mood lighting. Yeah. It's a completely different atmosphere.
Totally different energy.
Yeah. Like if anyone has ever worked in hospitality, which I've never been on the burners for anything, but I've only ever been like a dish pig or a server. Yeah. But even then, going in and out, you feel the intensity of what it is like. The moment you go through those doors, you're like, here we go, bam, and it's like, whoa, and
it's like this thick cloud of testosterone, because a lot of the kitchens tend to be a lot more, you know, male dominated.
Yeah,
I mean, it's changed a lot now. You see a lot more women in there. You're really doing incredible. I mean, look, in my opinion, I think women make better chefs than men do. Less ego.
Maybe that's the nurturing aspect too. Well, that's the thing.
It's
they really feel like they want people to
feel, rather than there's not as much competition. I mean, unless you're the only one in there who's happens to be female, then you know, there is that kind of, you know, that stress of, okay, I need to prove myself in this environment that's male dominated. But some of the best chefs I've ever learned from have been women, mainly because of that, because because of the nurture that comes with it, which cooking, you do have to have that nurturing aspect to it all. You need to be soft. You know, I think the physicality comes in when it's the long hours and the mental kind of, you know, the mental
grind.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. You really have to kind of talk yourself. It's all right. Just keep going.
Yeah,
because it is. You know, there's heavy lifting. You know, the thing. You know, knives everywhere.
Yeah.
You know, boiling water. You
sometimes flame,
oil,
like a lot.
Yeah. You know, fights break out.
Yeah.
You know, because you know, each person's given a task that you need to complete.
Yep.
You know, and
constant time restraints.
Yeah. Well, exactly. You know, and some kitchens have what they have, you know, and people, I remember going into, when I was in my 20s, going into certain restaurants and having a list of things that I needed to do. Everyone did, right? And then as soon as the kitchen would open up in the morning, which is generally around maybe 8:30, 9 in the morning, just all the chefs would just rush into the kitchen, run and try and get as many pots and pans as they can get, whatever they needed specifically for their task that day. And it was crazy because it was chaotic. If you didn't get what you needed and someone else did, you were fucked. You had to, and so fights would break out.
Wow.
I mean, so many fights broke out.
Really?
Oh yeah, because if you couldn't complete what you needed to do, you were fucking, the chef would just fucking, he would.
Yeah, you bust your ass.
You would, and you would feel it.
Yeah,
and
you're in trouble.
Oh man!
And it's there was something that you probably know this that they did a study that the professions that are the most stressful, it's something like people who work in a kitchen and surgeons.
Yeah. Oh, it's insane. Well, it's exactly it, man.
Maybe also because you're dealing with people who are hangry.
Yeah. Well, I mean, exactly. It's kind of it's a funny one because we work with food and we cook food, yet we don't feed ourselves. You know what I mean? It's funny how that works, but a lot of chefs have the worst diets.
Yeah. Because last thing you want to do is go home.
We just spend our time cooking for other people and doing this beautiful food for other people. Yeah, we don't. Not anymore. Again, that's changed. Like I certainly don't do that anymore like I used to. I mean, I'd would probably once a day and it was probably some shit food that I would get fast. Yeah. I didn't really care, but now that's changed. But you look at a lot of the mental aspect of it all as well. Like a lot of chefs now are really making an effort to change that, because in that profession, there's a lot of drugs, a lot of alcohol.
Yeah,
a lot of abuse.
I was going to talk. Yeah, so something that I observed in the little time that I've spent in hospitality is that it seems as though there's a common trait for it would be common to find someone in the kitchen who's in recovery.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is? Because it's pretty consistent.
I think it's because of the stress, because of the anxiety, because you're pressured and expected to do something consistently.
So do you think that it's because these people are addicts because of the job, or do you think that they go to that job because they're addicts?
I think there is a certain kind of addiction that you get working in that world because it's high pressure. That's the thing. I think a lot of people who are attracted to that profession are used to a certain type of abuse. And they that's what they know. Whether it's consciously or subconsciously, and there's that need to be recognized or to be felt or to be seen, and you want to prove yourself. So you will go at any lengths to keep going at it, whether that means drugs, alcohol. And, there's also that decompression at the end of the night when, you guys have just gone to war and it's like finally the night's done. And then, that's usually when all the shifts kind of really get together and they kind of get together and talk and release. And you're doing that over a few beers and few beers turns into a
ride,
few,
isn't it?
Yeah, it turns into a few whiskeys. Then you all go to the bar, and then you guys have a big night, and then the next day you wake up and you do it all over again. It's like constant aggression and then decompression with, drugs and alcohol.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah,
but that's why I think it's just the numbing bit that they go for. It's whatever they need to do to keep going is what they do. And look, I certainly did it. I didn't do it for a long time. I actually went the opposite way because when I got offered to be an apprentice at a pretty incredible restaurant in Spain, very difficult to get into. And prior to that, I had been doing my share of partying, But when I got this, I thought, all right, I can't fuck this up. So I actually stopped drinking. I stopped drinking, doing anything for 7 years, completely alcohol-free for 7 years, and only so that I could keep my head clean and straight for this specific restaurant, which, ended up being an incredible experience for me. But I think it's you still see a lot of that abuse, but not as intense or as much as it used to be. Like I said, a lot of chefs now, you look at social media, you'll see chefs who are exercising, who are eating clean. They're choosing the clean life because they're realizing, all right, if I'm a great chef or I can do great food,
I need to be able to perform.
Normal. And like imagine if I was off any kind of numbness or stimulation, how would I be then? You know what
It's funny that isn't that interesting how people are becoming more wise to taking care of themselves and putting their performance first. Like I'm noticing that in the music world as well. Yeah. What's the thing you used to notice about the rock stars in the 80s? Parties. Yeah, well,
exactly.
Sex, drugs, rock and roll. And they would just get blind drunk and do loads of coke and then go out and do the concert. And whereas now, just recently I saw a day in the life of this a guy, I can't remember which band it was, but he's in a big metal band and he's running through his daily routine and it's basically it's all about taking care of himself. He gets up and does a cold plunge and he does yoga and then he does a workout and then he's like super conscious of being able to maintain his body so that he can perform to the best of his ability. And it's interesting. The guys in the kitchen are doing it too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, if you look at the good things that or positive things that came out of COVID or the pandemic, is that now more than ever, people are wanting to be more health conscious, making more efforts to eat healthy, to exercise. This whole, cold plunges. You talked about that. I mean, I do it every day. So it's become this trend. But I mean, look, whether it's a trend or not, I mean, the fact that more and more people are making an effort to be healthy mentally and physically and spiritually. I mean, shit, why not?
Yeah, and it's a great thing too. I agree with you, coming out of the COVID
and
stuff.
Especially if you're a creative with the amount of mental and physical stress that you go through, I think it's absolutely, it's a great thing. Yeah. But that's what I've noticed happening with my profession. A lot of chefs are changing the whole game. And like I said, they're becoming more responsible for a lot of what they do, because restaurants, if you want to talk about a business that's not sustainable, well, restaurants have definitely never been sustainable, whether it's money or just the amount of waste that occurs in a restaurant. It's disgusting. You've got so many brilliant chefs now who are changing that, restaurants that are trying to be 100% sustainable, closed loop sort of thing, which some brilliant things happening with a lot of brilliant chefs, which is nice to see. But I think it's happening everywhere now. Everybody, no matter if you're creative or not, people are becoming more aware of how can I be more self-sustaining, do less damage to the world. Yeah, it's like we got to preserve what we've got. Yeah, because it's we're making a meal of it. Yeah.
Something that I quite often think about when so let's say I'm going to make the most gourmet meal at home that I'm capable of making. So I go out to the supermarket or I go out to the farmer's market, right? And I try and get the best ingredients that I can. I buy all organic ingredients. I buy all the best stuff. Yeah. It's not cheap. Right. To do that, right? Yeah. And you come home and you prepare it and you can tell it tastes great. Yeah. But I'm not a chef. Right. I don't know the tricks. I can try and follow a recipe to the best of my ability. Yeah. And I can make something that's pretty good, but it's not the same as that magic touch that people like you have and have learned. Yeah. But then something else that I think about too is you go to a restaurant and if majority of the time, if that restaurant's trying to turn a profit, the food may look beautiful and it may taste delicious, but it is the cheapest version of those ingredients that they can find, probably, because they're trying to make a profit.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I mean, it's gotten so expensive when it comes to produce, right? Yeah. I mean, look, I think a lot of it has to do also with the climate change, how so many farmers struggled because of climate and because of a variety of things. So of course, produce is going to become more expensive. But I think I honestly think that the restaurants that are able to offer good quality ingredients without sacrificing, the quality of it and not getting anything that's, mass produced. I think it's definitely possible, but it's always going to be the ones that manage and grow their own produce.
Yeah.
It's hard to, if you're a 300 seat restaurant and you want to be sustainable and you want to offer someone incredible quality at a low price, it's not going to happen. You can't. I mean, it's.
Yeah,
you can, but I mean, it's.
But at a low price, you can't do it as cheaply as the cheap
because
shit.
It's absolutely not, because it takes time to grow something beautiful.
It's that's a fascinating thing when you look at the price difference between an organic head of broccoli and a conventionally grown head of broccoli. It's a fair bit, and you kind of think, what does this translate to? What is the process in this? Let alone animal products. Like if it's free range, organic, grass fed beef instead of factory farmed, something if you could see a documentary of the life of this animal versus this animal, drastically different.
That's the thing, and I think that, look, guaranteed a lot of these places that are that big, that are 300 seaters, they're definitely not going to be offering the best quality. You know what I mean? I'm not saying it's going to be terrible, but the way a lot of farming practices have been forced to have certain things done to them because of the fact that big companies want to come in and they want to mass produce, and there's just no way you can do that. That's not how nature works. You can't force something to grow bigger and more either faster just simply because you wanted to, using science.
There's consequences.
Well, exactly. I mean, look, we've been conditioned to become a culture where we want everything fast. Yeah. Right? You can have
at any cost.
Yeah, you can have tomatoes any time of the year, which is, any chef will tell you the best time to eat tomatoes is in the summer. Winter, you don't eat them raw. You cook with them. You never eat them raw in the winter. Also depends on what, where you are in the world. Obviously,
just this, but this alone, this is fascinating to me because this stuff, right? Yeah. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Like I'm just a product of the environment that I have been born into.
Sure.
And I go to the supermarket.
Yeah.
And if it just so happens that there are no berries, I'm like, what the fuck's going on?
Exactly.
Why are there no berries here?
Yeah.
Like the only thing that I'm aware of as a consumer that is seasonal is like tropical summer fruits like mangoes. Everybody you don't really get things like mangoes year round. But other than that, I don't have any concept of when things should grow and when I should be eating certain fruits and veggies because they're in season.
Well, exactly.
Completely removed from that.
You just said it, like tropical fruit, right?
Yeah.
Mangoes, there's a time when they're at their best, right?
Yeah.
And you can't get them during the winter. It's always a summer thing. Well, same thing with tomatoes. Well, right now, for example, we're stone fruit season. Summertime is always stone fruit, which means peaches, nectarines, cherries, that sort of thing. It's the perfect time for them. Now, during the winter, you can easily get cherries, but they're not going to be from Australia. They're going to be from China or from the States.
Yeah.
And I guess, look, some people don't care where it's from. But if you're someone who really makes an effort to support, where you're from, you're going to want to buy from the farmers growing the things that are meant to be eaten right now. You're not going to be consuming, cherries from the United States. Why? And the same thing goes with tomatoes. Like, guarantee, like if you go to Byron Bay, there's this there's these Cooper shoot tomatoes. They're insanely beautiful. They're these big, enormous tomatoes that they're proper heirloom in the sense that they're not perfect. They're just shaped.
All these anomalies.
All these crazy shapes.
Ugly.
And they're ugly, basically. But they're the most beautiful, sweet tomatoes you'll ever eat.
Yes.
But you can only get them in the summer.
Yeah.
And now during the winter we have access to tomatoes, but they're not sweet.
No.
They're the flesh is very kind of bitter and dull. They're meant to be cooked, and also you have to understand just the whole science behind it all as well. Certain vegetables offer more vitamins and nutrients depending on whether they're cooked or whether they're raw. Some you get better results when they're eaten raw, and some when they're cooked. And in the case of tomatoes, for example, look, you can get, if they're in season, you get some amazing nutrients from it. But when you cook them, that releases, lycopene, which is amazing for a lot of things, for your eye health. It's a great antioxidant. There's so many amazing things.
Only when you cook them.
When you cook it, it extracts this lycopene. It allows it to be more accessible to the body.
Wow.
So which is another reason why, nature has its way of telling you when to eat and when not to eat certain things.
And we've just been completely removed from that.
Well, exactly. And I think we have, because of that, because we can get whatever we want when we want it.
But that doesn't mean that we should be eating it. It's the best time to be eating it. Like anyone who's ever tried to grow any kind of fruit or veggie in the garden, you start to know this. Like I've been on a bit of an endeavor a couple of years ago to grow chilies.
Yeah.
And I learned this the hard way. And this is the other thing. Like you fuck it up.
Yeah.
You go, I only got to wait a year before I can start again, or half a year, because you go. Well, I want to grow them now. You can't grow them now.
No, well,
they don't grow now. It's too cold.
Exactly. And look, I'm very much about eating local and seasonal. And look, a lot of chefs are. Some chefs don't care. There's some chefs who will import, white truffles from Italy and caviar from Russia and all sorts of different things from different parts of the world. I'm not saying that's wrong, but you got to think about the cost that builds when it comes to bringing those things in. The amount of damage.
Well, there's also degradation.
Well, and then the damage that it does to the environment, getting it here. Planes, all this, just the transport of it all. It's crazy. And look, a lot of the times,
and the damage it does to the food.
Exactly. And I think a lot of the restaurants that can do that tend to be the ones that have a lot of backing to be able to do that.
Yeah. And
it's
who about fancy food at any cost.
Who want to tell a story in their own way, utilizing ingredients from all over the world. But
that's cool. That's an experience.
Yeah,
but
it is. But it does come at a cost.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that it's wrong, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't do that. But it does come at a cost, and it also kind of, in my opinion, you're not teaching the consumer what they should actually be eating. What actually grows.
Instinct's
here.
gone.
Well, exactly. And I've been living here for almost 7 years now, and to me, the produce from Australia that you get in Australia is incredible.
Really?
Some of the best in the world.
Yeah, right.
And there's a lot of ingredients that many Australians don't know about.
Really?
There are a lot of different fruits and berries and seeds. A lot of the Aboriginal community have used for thousands of years that even Australians didn't know about. And now it's becoming more popular. You've got restaurants that are, quite new and innovative that are showcasing those ingredients and teaching everybody about them. But there's so many incredible ingredients out there. And, look at Byron Bay. That's one of the most beautiful parts of the world. And you get incredible produce there. So I think it's teaching. I think it's important to be able to teach people that instead of getting something, if you've got asparagus on the dish, rather than getting them from Mexico or the United States or China, why not wait until they're actually growing here in Australia?
Yeah.
Which, for example, in October, I did a dinner. I did a collaboration with Veuve Clicquot, and we did this beautiful dinner, and I was getting just local produce. But then I had a friend of mine who's a farmer in Tasmania, and it's been this was in October, and it was white asparagus season. So he sent me a box of it, and it was the most beautiful white asparagus, huge, beautiful asparagus, and I used them up, and I thought this is exactly what I'm talking about. You'd be able to get white asparagus, but it would more likely come from the United States or from Europe. But if you wait for like springtime, Tasmania grows some incredible asparagus and produce in general. But even look, it happens a lot, and I sometimes I'm quite shocked as to why certain people don't just take advantage of what's near them. For example, when I did this dinner in Noosa, I walked into a local fish shop, to get some fresh fish for this dinner. Crazy thing was, here I am in Noosa, right? We're surrounded by the ocean. Yet all the fish that they were carrying was from either Western Australia or some other part of Australia, or even like outside of Australia. Most of it was frozen. And I'm thinking, well, wait a minute. The ocean's just there. What do you mean it's frozen? And what do you mean it comes from Western Australia? Like we have, you can get, there's fish everywhere. Right there. I'm like, it's crazy. And I just couldn't wrap my head around it. It's like, well, needless to say, I walked out of there really disturbed and kind of pissed off. I'm like,
it's a money decision, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, it's like, well, why are you doing this? Like, what's the purpose of that?
Yeah.
Because Australia has incredible seafood.
Yeah.
Tasmania alone, my God.
Yeah.
I mean, that's as far as I'd go as far as getting things, that are kind of still Australia, or even New Zealand. In New Zealand, I've gotten some incredible seafood. But, I mean, Tasmania alone has some of the best shellfish in the world, Granted, there's certain things that are better. For example, octopus. Some of the best octopus in Australia comes from Fremantle. It's incredible. But you could still get really beautiful octopus nearby. Baby octopus and different, incredible, variety of oysters.
There's something about what you're talking about. It's about a kind of being in symbiosis with your environment,
right?
And there's something kind of magical about that. Like being able to understand your environment and know what is available to you. I mean, obviously you can go on a super close level to that. So if you were doing the modern hunter-gatherer thing, and if you, Serge, were just going to go, I'm going to get the food that I can physically go and get, either fish it myself or get it from a market that is within a 20-kilometer range. You get this understanding of your environment. You kind of go, I know what fruits are in season. I know, and I think that what would come with that, there must be a benefit and a different proportion of like flavor and nutrients in these foods, because they're where you're from. They haven't traveled.
Right.
They haven't been taken out of their environment. There's something kind of magical about that.
Yeah. No, absolutely. But that's what cooking and culture is all about. I mean, it really is. That's where the dishes came from, because that's what they had, right? Mean, if you really want to understand the DNA of what any culture is, you look at the food, how people eat.
Yes.
And by living in Australia and getting something from China, it doesn't make any sense. You're not really understanding the land of where you're from. But again, it is quite common. I think it's more people are becoming aware of that and requesting, to get more things locally sourced and that sort of thing. A lot of supermarkets as well. I mean, you look at the modern day supermarket, everything is packaged, plastic everywhere, highly produced. I mean, it's like the old days where at least when in Europe, you still see them today, but like going to a market, for me, was seeing all the fruit just on its own with no sticker tags on it. They weren't boxed or packaged.
It's just probably different sizes and shapes too.
You look at it. You go into a market now.
Yeah, it's like cricket balls.
They all look the same. Yeah. It's like, wait a minute, did someone just?
And then have you noticed that now they have, like, if you go to Coles or Woolworths, for instance, they have a section that's the imperfect section, which is
funny because that's the heirloom section. And it's like, well, wait a minute, so these are imperfect?
Yeah, they're the wrong shape.
They tend to taste the best, which is is But you look at these apples, they all look exactly the same.
Yeah.
And then you bite into one, it's like they're just flavorless. There's no nutrients. They've just been like, it's crazy.
Do you know about this? I saw something recently where it was a comparison of the nutrient amounts in fruits and veggies over the last 150 years.
Yeah.
And it's disturbing. Like the amount of vitamins and nutrients in an apple from 1900 to now is drastically different.
Yeah, I've heard that and read that many times. So it makes sense to me.
Do you think there's a way that we can Does that come from soil health, do you think?
I think, yes, a lot of it has to do with soil health.
Like, do you think we can get to a point where we can revitalize our food?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Look, you've got a lot of farmers out there still doing methods that are hundreds of years old. You know, it's the kind of like the newer, bigger companies or entities trying to, again, mass produce. How much can we get in little time?
Yeah.
You know, I want,
money first, everything else
of this type of apple within 2 months.
Yeah, because we can sell it.
Well, exactly. Yeah. And we can export it.
And
what's the purpose of that? But, and then sadly, those farmers who want to continue doing natural methods and being in symbiosis with how nature works, they're the ones that suffer, because they're not quick enough. They're not fast enough. They're not producing enough. They're like, well, that's the way it's always been. To make a profit,
they've got to charge more.
Exactly. That's the way it's always been. But it's not good enough, and that's the kind of the downfall of living in a world that's become so fast. It's like everything, if you don't have it now, then I don't know.
And here's the thing that's really fucked up. It's killing us.
Yeah.
People are not well. People are obese, more so than they've ever been. Like, isn't it an interesting thing that the issue that we're facing in the Western world is not being able to stop eating?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like there's all these people around the world who would give anything to be able to get some food.
Yeah.
But yet then you go to these other parts of the world that we live in and people can't stop eating. And it's not even proper food.
No.
It's just this addictive substance that you can eat. It's designed
crazy
to make you keep eating it.
Well, it's crazy. It's such an extreme as well. You think there's a lot of people in the world who can barely get any kind of food. And yet here we are, we get too much and we just don't care where it's from and we just consume. And look, I think it will change. It is changing and it's going to have to change.
Yeah, people want to get healthy.
There's just no way, and then now the crazy thing is you've got a lot of these labs now growing meat.
It's just man, I do not trust that.
Like, wait a minute. It's like that. How is that natural? And I get it. Look, they're trying to, it's a catch-22 because they're trying to figure out ways to not,
harm animals.
Which I get. And
I get that completely.
I totally get that. But I don't know, but maybe just eat less. Instead of trying to figure out ways to grow it in a lab.
I kind of think like, let's say you've got, what's interesting? We always get lamb, right? But there's never, it's very hard to find mutton.
Yeah.
Or anything that's not lamb from the sheep world.
Yeah.
But you can answer this for me. Yeah. Is that because, can you not make a delicious mutton dish?
Oh, absolutely you can. But it just, no one's doing that because it's just, it's like, unless you're like, for example, you can find plenty of that in New Zealand.
Right.
Or even parts of like London, England, that, there's a lot of it there. I think it's just because it's just, again, lamb is a perfect example of meat that's been mass produced.
Sure.
And it's,
they're young, they pump them out.
Exactly. It's easy to duplicate.
Yeah. Well, because what I'm talking about is creating an environment where sheep can live and be alive and happy and healthy for a while.
Well, exactly.
Till into their adult life, and then they are used for food.
Well, exactly. And there's a lot of countries in the world doing that, which is why, I don't know if you've traveled to Spain, haven't you?
I've never been to Spain, man. No, I'd love to.
So there's the famous pig
Did you grow up in Spain?
Yeah, I did.
Right.
Yeah, I did. I grew up in Spain, just 2 hours south of Barcelona.
Okay.
But there's a type of pig there that you can only find in Spain, and in a certain part of Spain, which is Western Spain, and they're massive, beautiful pigs who are raised in the most beautiful environment, and they graze naturally, and they feed on acorns, which gives them a fattiness that's so beautiful and rich, and it's Iberico ham. It's the Iberico pig, and they've never changed the methods of raising these pigs. It's been like that for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, and they're still doing it to this day.
They're happy, healthy pigs.
Yeah, absolutely. And same thing with a lot of other types of like game and for example, ducks. If you talk about like France has always been known for their foie gras, which is the duck liver, right? Which is a really brutal method of fattening a duck to create this very unctuous like liver that's fatty, and it's something that's very sought after in throughout France.
It's like force feeding it, isn't it?
Yeah, they literally put a funnel down the poor creature's throat and they just funnel in food, which is it's a barbaric way
isn't it?
Of doing it, right?
Yeah,
but
that's horrific.
It's terrible. Now, there was this Spanish farmer who thought, you know what? Why are we doing it this way? There's got to be a way to allow these
not torture the ducks?
Exactly. There's got to be a way to allow these creatures to feast on beautiful food and allow them to fatten themselves up without any force. And that's exactly what he's done for the last probably 30 years. The livers are obviously smaller than the force-fed ones, but it's still incredible.
Yeah,
and
right.
a lot of restaurants.
So what's he doing?
Well, he's created the pasture. Like he's basically created this Eden for these ducks.
Yeah, wow.
It's in its natural environment where it just works with the cycle of what happens in nature.
So the ducks are just gorging because they're in heaven.
Yeah, he knows. He's figured it out. There's a natural clock for them where they know they need to feed before the winter. So he's created it that way, and it's.
How beautiful!
Well, exactly. He's working with nature, and then he's managed to do that instead of throwing them in some barn and locking them up. Crowded with all these different geese and ducks.
It's a duck horror film.
It's an assembly line. It's gross.
Yeah,
but he's like, you know what? This is the way they. He paid attention to how they moved. I thought, what if I gather a whole bunch of them and create this land and let them move within this structure that I'm going to fill with all these beautiful
treats.
Yeah, exactly. And let them be free.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what he's done for the last few years. And now, look, a lot of farmers are starting to take note of that and like, we don't need to do this anymore. But, a lot of people still do it. And it still exists.
Yeah.
And it takes longer to be able to distribute this once it gets to the point of where he wants it to be, or what they're trying to do with it. But it works.
It's almost a bit of a spiritual thing. Like I think that I don't know how you feel about this stuff, but I kind of tend to believe that energetically eating a tortured animal, I think that does something to us.
Absolutely.
Maybe we can't measure it with a scientific tool.
No.
But
absolutely.
I think it does something to it.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Because there's a reason why a lot of these deep spiritual teachings, Hinduism, Buddhism, so many others, they have similar specific ideologies around that.
Yeah.
And especially, I mean, a lot of them are, they don't eat any animal products, but at least the ones that do, they would certainly be against that. And I want, maybe it's a karmic thing that the Buddhists are coming from, but I don't know. I personally think that, I think that does something to you.
I agree. I mean, look, you'll even ask, if you can ask a lot of farmers, they'll tell you this, where it's like, especially with pigs, when they're getting ready to kill a pig, if you I think this would be true with any animal, really. But it's been proven, if you cause it any stress before it dies, it changes, physiologically. The whole kind of anatomy of the animal changes when it's under stress, which is why a lot of people who have eaten the meat of this stressed creature have gotten very ill or get ill from the meat that they consume, as opposed to getting an animal and being respectful of it and also just understanding its own natural process. For example, in Scandinavia, much of Scandinavia, they never really butcher young cows. They always butcher old dairy cows. And it's an old Viking method, but they wait for the old dairy cows to get very old, and those are the ones they end up butchering because they've lived a great life, and that's when they butcher them.
As fulfilled as a cow can get.
And they have their own methods of preserving them as well. But it's interesting how they do that. But there's a lot of cultures that do that, and that's the way it should be.
Yeah, I agree.
But when you're talking about an environment where we demand certain things, and not because I think it's just because of the lack of education most, like you said, most people don't know why we should eat a certain way. They just assume, well, we're growing it, right? Why can't I have it?
It's a product. It's in a container at the supermarket, right? What's the problem?
Exactly. So people just don't know. And I think there's a lot of, ignorance as well, because some people just frankly want to make money.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That's what it comes down to.
And you're not going to be able to.
Yeah. It's going to be much more challenging. I would love to get to a point, and I don't have the means to do it at this point in my life, but I do intend on doing this. I'd love to get to a point where I have a big deep freezer and I'm able to source wild caught meat.
Yeah.
Because, in my opinion, it seems as though these animals that are living their lives out in the wild are living as naturally and happily as they could possibly be living.
Yeah.
And then to be able to source that, and then you take the whole animal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Eat the organ meats,
absolutely,
eat all of it.
Yeah.
And because interestingly, when a carnivore kills an animal, they go for the organs first.
Yeah.
They know instinctively that's the most nutrient dense part of the animal.
Absolutely.
We're at this point where we just only eat the flesh.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, look, I grew up eating organ meat. When I was a kid, my mother fed me. We used to eat lamb brains. We used to eat, liver, tripe.
Yeah, tripe's a funky one.
It's all these, because look, back then we didn't have a lot of money, so we and these were the parts that we had access to, but they were the most had the most nutrients. You look at a lot of these cuts of meat now, it's just kind of this bland, no nutrients. They're just fed all this crap, and it's just the quality and taste, and it's just terrible. And I notice this every time I travel as well. Whether it doesn't matter where like if I go to a market and I get a piece of steak, it could be in the U.S., it could be in Europe, it could be in Australia. It doesn't matter what it is. If I buy a piece of steak at a supermarket and then I get one straight from a butcher who just, just recently, killed it and raised it himself, the difference is crazy. It's the flavor. It's cleaner. Like you even feel cleaner, lighter. It's crazy. And when I've eaten something from a supermarket, a well-known supermarket, it kind of just, after I've eaten it, it kind of just sits there. It's almost as if there's stuff in it that is just not allowing my body to naturally break down. And and you look at the amounts of like allergies and sickness that has grown in the last 15, 20 years. It's insane. It's like everyone now is allergic to gluten for some reason. And dairy and it's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But
what's the funny thing? I've been finding this raw milk, and I have a bit of an issue where I get really snotty if I drink just normal homogenized pasteurized milk.
Yeah.
And I heard this stuff about raw milk.
Yeah.
So it's unpasteurized, unhomogenized.
Yeah.
And people will say, "Oh, you're going to get salmonella or all these things. You don't touch it. It's going to make you horrendously sick." And then there's this other pocket of information on the internet that's saying this is a fucking superfood.
Yeah.
You're not going to get sick. You're not going to die from it. If it's bad, you'll know.
Yeah.
Because it's dairy.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it's not only not going to make you sick, your body's actually going to be able to use the nutrients from it.
Exactly.
So I did a little experiment on myself and was like, all right, I found some.
Yeah.
And not only have I not gotten sick, but I don't get all mucousy and snotty.
Interesting.
And allergies galore that I normally get from the pasteurized milk.
It's crazy. Because even like when I go to Europe and when I go home to Spain to visit family, I notice the difference. Like when I'm here, if I eat, because I eat everything. There's nothing I don't consume. I do find that my body reacts better to, more animal proteins and
I do too,
and some vegetables and some fruits. I do occasionally, love consuming. I love bread, especially good sourdough.
Well, back home for you, man, it would be some of the best, right?
Exactly. But I find that if I buy sourdough here, because I do make quite a bit of my own sourdough, and there's a huge difference because I allow it to ferment longer, which is once I bake it, it's easier to digest because of the fact that I've fermented it for so long.
Right.
But if I buy something here, a lot of the times it'll kind of just sit like a brick in my stomach. But when I go to Europe, it's crazy. I can eat bread from anywhere and I just don't feel that. Same
that's
thing with
consistent.
cheese or dairy products. It's crazy.
The amount of people you hear say that.
Yeah.
So that's got to be the manufacturing process, right?
Yeah.
The chemicals used, the how it's been grown, what they're spraying on it, what they're doing to it. They've got to be removing it from its natural growing method, as well as, because I've heard a lot about this too, how essentially there's this school of thought that says that grains for human consumption really should all be fermented.
Yeah.
In order for us to break them down and digest them effectively.
Well, that's the way it's always been. When you look at the way the Mayans used corn, the only way to eat corn was to ferment it. That was the only way of doing it. A lot of grains as well, different grains. That's the way it's always been, because of the...
They knew.
Your body just couldn't break it down. It had to be fermented. And
so that's essentially making it. The fermentation process is kind of digesting it itself.
Exactly.
Before you have to do it.
Exactly.
Right.
And a lot of indigenous cultures do those methods, which is why there's a lot of fermentation methods pretty much in every culture. Well, all of them, you know what I mean? And it's, of course they're going to know how to do that, I mean, because again, cooking started off from survival. We had to. So how are we going to do that?
You can't serve the family.
You're not going to. Well, exactly. You're not going to consume something that could eventually kill you.
Yeah.
Or just keep you from living a good life because your body is just trying to break this stuff down and you're constantly getting sick from it.
Yeah. Of course.
But it makes sense to do that, which is why I think it'd be fascinating too. There's a lot of chefs out there in the world doing a lot of work with indigenous cultures. But that's something that for me, I'm starting to spend less time in the kitchen cooking and more upfront with the kind of the whole research and development of it all. I would love to do a show where I do exactly that, where I travel the world and I kind of interact with indigenous people from whether it's here in Australia or it's in Mexico or in the United States, and kind of learn from them. What did you do to survive for so many years? What has your culture done to survive for so many years? What methods did you use? How did you use them and when? And guaranteed, all those methods you can do today, and in fact are probably even more important today because of the fact that they always had the best interest in the land.
Yes.
What they took out, they needed to put back in.
Yeah.
And that's always been true of every culture. You respect the land.
Yeah, you're part of it.
Because it's feeding you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think I would love to be able to do that and just go all over the world. And I already had my idea of specifically where I would go, which is Australia obviously was one of them on my list. To be with, in the United States, the Native Americans and that sort of thing, the way they did it, it was pretty incredible. A lot of the methods that they did. Japan is another one.
Oh, yeah.
Mexico, obviously.
These would be drastically different foods that they have available and methods that they have of preparation.
Well, look, think of just South America alone. Like you've got, Mexico, you got, places like in Argentina, Peru, all these different methods that they've utilized in fermenting fish and grains and all sorts of stuff. And that's fascinating. And then another one was Scandinavia, because I do really admire how they do, because they are old Viking methods.
Yes,
I mean, imagine
like
what they had to
thousands
do.
of years old.
Yeah, imagine what they had to do when they'd go off to sea for days and days.
Yeah,
and days.
that's a great. See, you ever watched that show Vikings, right?
Yeah,
and they go on
crazy.
these raids, and they're going from Norway to England on a friggin' Viking ship. How are they surviving?
Well, exactly.
What are they eating?
What would they do? Obviously, they would have to do something to be able to preserve it. You know? And
just chuck a line over the side.
Well, exactly. It's crazy. Well, I do know one of the methods that Scandinavians do with the old dairy cows that they butcher is during the winter. What they'll do is they create these sort of natural cold rooms where it's just literally a cave, and they get
you're in Norway,
because you don't need refrigeration.
Everywhere's a cold room.
And then they butcher these old dairy cows, and what they do is they get all the extra fat, and they smother the pieces of meat with its own fat, so it hardens and it prevents any bacteria to go in,
almost like a wax kind of.
Exactly.
Wow.
So it allows it to age. And break down, which is aging is basically a form of fermentation and breaking down of muscle tissue and that sort of thing.
Wow.
And then so ultimately the meat would be preserved. It would be the nutrients would be even better for you. It would intensify the flavor. And then they would once the weather would get better and it wasn't so cold, they would utilize the time to butcher these or cut these pieces of meat and consume it. And it was an incredible method of doing it.
Yeah.
And they do the same thing with a lot of the old vegetables when it comes to farming and during the winter, obviously harsh winters there.
What are they growing?
You've got to be able to preserve them.
Yeah.
Whether it's in vinegar and different types of alcohol, and then or just in water and salt.
Of course, because how much stuff can they actually grow fresh in the middle of winter?
And look, a lot of restaurants now in Scandinavia still practice that method. Like there's some restaurants that have a summer menu and a winter menu. All the summer menus tend to have all the beautiful fresh stuff, right? But then the winter menu is fascinating because the entire menu is it's based on things that are all fermented.
Wow.
And all been aged. That's all you consume. Nothing's fresh. It's all fermented and aged.
How interesting, man.
But that's how they do it there. That's how they had to do it.
It's the only way they can get food.
Yeah. But every culture has its method and its way. And look, I've never had the opportunity to kind of spend time with Aboriginal people here and cook with them and just spend a day with them and with their families and cultures and see what kind of cooking methods that they do. A few chef friends who live in Darwin who have the opportunity to cook with Aboriginal communities and be involved in that and the families and their environment and their day to day. I'd love to be able to do it. I haven't done that yet. It's on my list. But I have done that quite a bit with a lot of different cultures in Mexico. My father's actually Mexican.
Okay.
My mother and I are Spanish. I was born and raised in Zaragoza, Spain, which is about 2 hours south of Barcelona. It's right in between Madrid and Barcelona. Basically, okay. It's more inland. And so he's actually Mexican. He was in the military. He was sent to Spain, which is how I met my mother. But he's pretty much lived his entire life there once he married my mother. But obviously I know my Spanish background very well because that's where I was raised. And then in my later years, I was obviously fascinated by the Mexican culture and the different styles of cuisine and then just the history of the Mayans and it was fascinating.
It's ancient.
It's crazy. Yeah. And plus the history as well, how Spain and the whole trade that happened there and all the different spices that they brought into Mexico. It's insane. It's rich in history. So I decided to do a lot of traveling through Mexico and went all over to Yucatan Peninsula, to Oaxaca, pretty much everywhere. And then just study different types of cooking methods and, it was incredible.
Do you speak Spanish fluently?
Yeah.
That must be so amazing, man, to be able to go and to be able to completely really immerse yourself. Be able to speak to the people and obviously a different, same language that but a different culture.
Oh yeah!
Wow, how cool!
It's crazy. And then there, like in the Mexican culture, it's still very much mostly the women that cook, whereas the men tend to be the farmers and they do all the heavier loads of work, and the women will. Well, not to say that the cooking that the women there do is easy, because some of the stuff they do, it's crazy. It's serious. Like, it's all hands on.
Yeah.
They don't have equipment. They don't have.
Wow. It's everything's handmade.
Everything.
Man, me and my wife went to Tulum one time. Yeah. This was probably a while ago, before it went crazy. And the food, I've never eaten food like that in my life. I've eaten a lot of Mexican food. I love Mexican, but just even like the handmade corn tortillas on their own.
It's crazy.
I was like, I'll just eat that. That's amazing.
It's insane. And look, and then Tulum, obviously, that's the Yucatan Peninsula. That's very tropical, which is beautiful. And then you go into like central Mexico, like Oaxaca. I always say you've never tried real Mexican food unless you've been to Oaxaca. Okay. That's where it all really originated from. But it's a lot of, because normally a lot of people think when they think of Mexican food, they think tacos, they think
burritos.
That's not the westernized food, is it? That's the westernized version.
I learned that the hard way in Mexico. I asked for a burrito and the guy laughed at me. I was like,
no, it's crazy. But look, you're not the only one. A lot of people think that, but if you were to go to Oaxaca, you wouldn't understand what real Mexican food is. And it's because like tacos, that sort of thing, they didn't come until later. And it was an influence by the Lebanese, actually, that went into Mexico City. And then they used to, Mexico always used corn. And when the Lebanese came, they introduced, wheat and started making the flour because of the kebabs. They always use wheat, so they introduced that to Mexico, and then they started utilizing a lot of the Lebanese methods of the kebab, the rotating meats on the spit. And
that's a Lebanese.
Yeah, it's a Lebanese influence. So it's pretty amazing when you like parts of Mexico, different parts of Mexico with north, south. It's so different, and then there's parts of Mexico that are the actual jungle. There's Tabasco, Mexico. That's the name. It's not where Tabasco sauce originated.
Oh, really?
It's not, believe it or not. But
good marketing.
It actually came from the U.S., came from Louisiana.
Right.
But it
worked for it.
Yeah. But if you look up Tabasco, Mexico, it's the jungle.
Yeah.
And some of the things that you find there, it's just insane. It's fascinating, and that's the sort of thing that I think is becoming more and more important and relevant today with cooking. Is a lot of chefs, especially the younger generation, are starting to take note of how important it is to be familiar with those old techniques, and if they haven't been documented, to document them. It really is, because innovation only happens when you know everything before. You got to know the rules from the beginning. If you know everything that's happened before that, then you can innovate.
Yeah.
If you're just innovating out of thin air, you're not going to understand
you're
not going to understand how to develop anything. And that's the same with food, because we are becoming more innovative with cooking methods and cooking appliances, all sorts of stuff, and it's crazy what we can do now. I mean, you can have the same quality of food in the privacy of your own home now with all the different appliances that we're utilizing. But it's, unless you understand how everything was done before, it's like you're never really going to advance in anything. So, and that's especially true when it comes to farming and agriculture. Like, you really do need to understand all those methods and all the science behind it.
Yeah.
Which is why I think it'd be fascinating.
Dude, I think that's. I hope you can get to a point where you can make that happen, because I truly agree that would be a fascinating show. I found myself going down these, and I don't really cook very much at all. Like my wife does a vast majority of it, and she's wonderful at it. But I don't do much, but I love the artistry and the process of that, especially the authentic stuff that you're talking about. I've been down these rabbit holes, and there's a couple of shows. There's this one guy, an Aussie, he's Australian Sri Lankan, his name is Peter Kuravita, and he did a show where he travelled around Sri Lanka making authentic curries and authentic foods, essentially, based on each area of Sri Lanka that he was in. And I just got obsessed with this show, man. Like, the ingredients he was using, half the stuff I was like, I don't even know what that is. I've never seen that. I have no idea what that would taste like. And there's another show it's a YouTube show. I think it's called Authentic World Food. And it's this girl who, I think she's European, I think she might be German. And she would just go basically backpacking to the most random places in the middle of nowhere and just document authentic cooking practices of the local people.
Yeah.
And there's this one video where she's documenting this woman cooking. I think she's in the Middle East somewhere, and she's like in a tent.
Wow.
And she's making this bread by hand. Yeah. She makes this little soup thing, and it's just mesmerizing, the love and time that's gone into this meal.
Well, that's, you're getting a glimpse of that culture.
Yeah.
Like you're getting a real idea of what that culture
what life is like.
Yeah, exactly. And which is why another place that I'm fascinated by is look, the Middle East. A lot of stuff, take away all the politics, all the stuff that's going on.
Yeah.
Their culture is quite beautiful and impressive. Just and
the climate as well. Yeah, plays a huge part in it.
It's insane. I got to spend 2 weeks in Tel Aviv, and I was blown away by the food, the culture. It was incredible. There are a lot of places that I've never been to there that I would love to go to. Look, I've never been to Turkey. That's one place I'm dying to go to. The food there just looks insane, and everyone I've spoken to who's been there says it's incredible. The food, the people. But yeah, that's an area that I've yet to explore. But I have explored Mexico. I've explored Europe, Scandinavia. A lot of Asia. Japan's another one, man. That's those guys. The way they do things in Japan is just on another level.
I was going to say, what out of all the places you've been to, what are some of the places that have, and food, you would be fair to say you're probably food obsessed.
Yeah, well, it's been my profession.
Yeah. What are some of the places where they have certain practices you've been like, wow, I've never seen this. This is weird.
Yeah, I'd have to say Japan was probably the biggest one for me.
Really?
I think I spent almost 3 years working there when I was in my mid-20s. And if you've ever been in Japan or understand the culture, it's a culture that's passionately obsessed with craft. Which is why you hear these stories and you hear about these sushi masters who have been doing it for 60 years and that's all they know. But they've perfected it. And it's a simple thing, but it's the most, I find the simplest things tend to be the hardest, because unless you really know how to make it shine in its natural environment, it's really difficult to do that. And one of the things that I love about the Japanese culture is that they're very respectful of craft. It doesn't matter where it comes from, and the tradition of it all. Which is why you see in the last 20 years, so many young chefs from Japan have gone to Europe to study in France or Italy and to learn how to make, traditional French cuisine or pizza or traditional Italian food. Then they go back to their country in Japan, and then they master it, and then they make it even better.
Wow.
I mean, look, I'm sure I'll probably have a few French friends of mine that will say otherwise, but I think that the Japanese have surpassed the French in patisserie.
Yeah, really? Wow. There's a diligence within their culture.
Even bread baking. I mean, you go to Japan, you have some incredible breads, and there's a guy in Kyoto making pizza, and it's the most insane thing you'll ever taste.
Wow.
You've got Italians who've been doing it for centuries, who have, families, who have been doing it for hundreds of years, and they go there and I think, what has this guy done? He's just completely changed the whole game.
Wow.
It's insane. But the way they do, look, their culture's always been like that. Everything's always very beautiful and poetic, and because they have so much respect for just craft, and of course craft comes from tradition. But they do it. That's got to be for me the one place that really kind of changed the whole direction of cooking for me.
Wow,
It was like, wow, okay, this is another level.
And it's just such a foreign culture to anything that I know, and probably what you know as well, completely different language, completely different place in general. I really have very little knowledge of Japanese culture and their way of life. So to go there and immerse yourself in their food would be such a shock.
I was quite lucky because there was an apprentice that was working with me in San Sebastian, Spain, and he was from Kyoto, and we became great friends. We were in our like early 20s, and I was already fascinated by the culture by that point because I was very much into martial arts back then. You know, I'd started to study a bit of Aikido. I was always fascinated by the history of the samurai as well, and so I started to kind of really delve into the whole cuisine of Japan, and it was very foreign to me. And then we became friends, and when our internship ended, he said, "Well, why don't you come to Kyoto with me and see my uncle's restaurant?"
You're like, fuck yeah.
Yeah, I was like, sure. I didn't know a word of Japanese, and he knew Spanish obviously because he was an apprentice at this restaurant, and so he was the reason why I got in. Because we're talking, I mean, look, I was in my 20s, I'm 46 now, so this is a while back, 20 years ago or so, and so back then it wasn't. It was not common to have a Westerner just walk into a kitchen in especially Kyoto, which is the history there alone is tremendous, and you're not going to have this Westerner just walk in and like be allowed to see all the different methods and techniques and traditions that they've done unless you've earned it.
Yeah, right.
But I did have that in with him where he thought, okay, well look, you can't do anything, but you can observe. That's basically what it was.
Privilege enough.
Yeah, so I thought, shit, that's fine by me.
I'll take it. Yeah,
and which was fascinating, just kind of standing there and just being a witness to it all. And I'm telling you, it was like watching an opera.
Really,
everything was fluid. There was no spoken word. No one said a word. It just moved perfectly. And
as opposed to what we were talking about earlier with the kitchens.
Exactly. Like a lot of the Western kitchens, like European kitchens, there's a lot happening. There's, a lot of, yelling and conversations, this, that, everything. It's like before a Broadway show where it's chaos, right? Everyone's trying, all right, everyone's got their stuff, everyone's got this, everyone's, got their part ready. And everyone's it's chaotic. Whereas in the Japanese kitchen, there's like no one said a word.
Not tense.
You couldn't feel any tension. Everyone was just fluid and
just complete trust.
Yeah, it was like watching a ballet. It was just like insane. Everything was moving perfectly, and I would just watch these guys create these beautiful, things with food, and just the methods were just so different.
Wow.
And then slowly but surely, they because I was a foreigner and because I was friends with the son, they allowed me to do certain little things, like washing certain vegetables in a certain way, sharpening my knife. That was a big thing. You needed to know how to properly sharpen your own knife, how to handle certain fish, how to do this, everything was very specific and very detailed, and everything was very slow. You're not blasting through fish and meat and throwing things like getting it all together quickly. They just did it completely different. Everything was thoughtful, and I love that about it, the slow pace of it. And of course, we're talking about restaurants that only sat like 25 people, so it's not like a restaurant you'd go to in Europe where it's more than that or more intense than that. But finally I got to do all these things, and then surely I was able to, like, here and there do a few dishes and learned quite a few things, and it was incredible. But then when I realized just how simple it all was, as far as ingredients, but the technicality of just trying to make those 3 ingredients shine was just crazy. I'm like, wow. I'm like, okay.
Meticulous.
Very meticulous. And I love that. And which is why once I left there, I thought, wow, okay, this is on another level, which helped me a lot when I transitioned into these other restaurants that were very high end. But, that's the kind of energy that a lot of these restaurants want to be in. That's the ultimate goal, is to be that fluid.
It sounds like a beautiful place to operate from.
So that's, for me, it was a perfect segue into a lot of the places that I worked at afterwards.
It would probably have been impossible for you not to implement a lot of those techniques into your own cooking, right?
Yeah. Well, I thought, you know what, if you could essentially do that with anything, so I'm going to try it this way, and I did, because not all restaurants, but there's a lot of restaurants where, like they try and shove in as many ingredients as they possibly can into one dish. Of course, some dishes require, like if you're talking about a curry, for example, there's quite a few different elements to create a curry, especially depending on what curry you decide to make. But for the most part, when you're dealing with just certain vegetables, certain ingredients, and it's not necessarily things that are slow cooked for a long time. It's just things that are put together in cohesively in a beautiful way. And finding the balance, this is the perfect way, the perfect method to learn.
Well, that's the thing that I think is such a skill, and there's a science, but also an art to that. That balance of so isn't there like a bit of a formula, like it's like fat and salt and acid or something? Is there some? How conscious of that are you?
I mean, I wouldn't say that I'm an expert at flavor. I mean, look, I've met some chefs that are just geniuses, that they just pair the most unique things, and they make it
creates its own thing.
It works,
right?
And I managed to. That's not something that you could learn from somebody else. You just
it's experimental.
You have to, and I think for me, the way I measure when I'm cooking something is exactly that balance, right? If it's salty, it needs a little bit of acidity. And if it has acidity, it needs a little bit of sweetness. If it's got sweetness, it needs a little bit of richness, and all of that. It's got to be cohesive.
So you need how to. It's to this. I need more of this.
Yeah.
In order to get it to the sweet spot.
Exactly.
Exactly.
No element should be overpowering. And even like say which the Japanese did, or just masters at, is like, say you have a dish that's just 2 ingredients. Well, what you taste is those 2 ingredients, but with a depth that's just, you would think there's probably 10 other ingredients in there, but it's just 2. And that's the thing. It's almost creating one flavor or one ingredient and making it 4-dimensional. It's crazy, but that's the thing they do beautifully, and that's what I really kind of got myself to, or trained myself to do, is like, all right, how can I give this some depth and without adding a bunch of shit that doesn't need to be in there, If I've picked the things right when they're meant to be picked, then there's not a lot of work I need to do. I just need to respect the technique, how to keep it,
honor the food itself.
And keep it real, without doing any damage to it. And it's taken years to do it. Shit, I haven't mastered it. It's one of those things like that you're continuously trying to perfect, but if you're working with great ingredients, then like I said, half the job's already done.
That's such a big part of it, isn't it? I often think about that with especially with fruit. You can, if you don't, and I don't really know, but I know the basic things on how to check if it's good fruit. But you can buy fruit and it can make or ruin your day. If you get a good piece of fruit, I mean that's almost life changing. But a bad piece of fruit, it's so frustrating.
Yeah, it really is, man. It really is. But it's been, that's the way it's been for me, and I've taken that everywhere, like as far as when I've worked at high-end restaurants, or when I've done a lot of the private cooking that I've done, which is the reason why it's crazy, how I even got involved into private cooking was never my intention. But the reason why I ended up getting such a great clientele is because of the fact that I was able to create diets. I don't like the word diet, it's kind of a nasty word, but I was able to create food for them that made them feel good and allowed them to get to the goals that they were trying to get to. If they were working on a film or whatnot, it just made them, I was able to make them realize that eating healthy doesn't need restrictions. And I think, and understanding balance was what made it easy for me to do that sort of work. Whether it was restaurants or in private private chefing.
I've often thought about that. You know, you think about, you can make, anyone can probably make a dish that's really delicious, but you just load it with shit.
Yeah.
Stuff that's not good for you.
Right.
Stuff that's really tasty. Put a bunch of sugar in it or whatever it is.
Sauces. Or
oils. Exactly.
Yeah.
Like that's classified as delicious, but the challenge of making something that is not full of junk, real food, and is also delicious. Now that's the next level up. And I would imagine when you're doing, you have a let's say it's a celebrity client who has a specific dietary restriction that they need to get to, and they go, "Hey, Serge, you're the guy. Make me a delicious meal, but I've got to also lose a bunch of weight."
But you'd be surprised. It's so easy to do. And when I've worked with a client in the past, and I show them, I always ask what they've done, and then because a lot of what I do with my private clients is I'm not giving them anything they've never heard of or seen before, but more than anything, I'm helping them become aware of what they consume and how they consume it and how they feel about it. It's just awareness, helping them be aware of what they consume. But it's pretty interesting. A lot of them are shocked at the fact that there's really not a lot that needs to be changed, except really how you consume and what you're consuming, where it's from makes a big difference, obviously.
Yeah, right.
But it's like, for example, like I'm sure you've bought a simple piece of steak, or somebody's cooked you a piece of steak and has completely ruined it for you.
Yeah, I've done it to myself.
Right, you know when something tastes good, and also it depends on where it's from. You can tell the difference, right? Most people, I assume, can. Well, a good piece of steak versus a shitty one that you got from, I don't know, some service station. Who knows? Some servers sell them now. But you can tell the difference. But when you cook it well, and when you add good salt, good sea salt, good olive oil, and just grill it,
get it right
beautifully without putting any other shit on it, and you consume that, you notice the difference. You know what I mean? It's like, obviously you can throw a sauce on anything, and of course it's going to taste good if you're masking the whole thing. But what's the purpose of consuming that if you're just going to drown it and dredge it in the sauce? But what I do with a lot of clients is I've done that. I've basically reintroduced things that have been around for a long time, because interestingly enough, a lot of people forget, like, oh shit, okay, that's all I need to do. People think, oh, what's a diet? I can only eat this, or I can only eat that. Sure. That's the first thing I always focus on. Is I never, unless I've got an actor who needs to drop serious weight, then obviously there's calorie manipulation that you have to do there and help them with certain things. Yeah. But for the most part, they drop a lot of weight just by eating good food. So
the body responds to that, doesn't it? And I don't think that people are as respectful of that as they should be. Your body's able to, like digestion, obviously is a big deal. Yeah. Like if you, as you were talking about before, you eat some Domino's pizza. Yeah. And man, it's punishment. Oh, man, it's great when you're doing it, but it's punishing.
You feel it afterwards. You might feel good while you're eating it, but then you suffer.
You really do. If you can sit and observe that, and how long do you actually suffer for? Yeah, like that's the thing. It's pretty obvious right then and there. But how long is that staying with you, as opposed to something that your body can actually utilize and use right then and there, and then move on with life?
Yeah, it's interesting to me how so many people, not just clients that I've had in the past, but just people in general, how they just don't pay attention to what they eat. But then they'll tell you how
they feel like shit.
Yeah, their bodies are full of inflammation, or they have this, they have that, they have this problem, they can't digest this, and headaches, insomnia. And I'm thinking, well, what are you consuming it? And how are you consuming it? Or what are you doing with it exactly? And then I end up finding out that a lot of people will just buy things because they think it's healthy, or it's a healthy ingredient, or they'll stuff their face with something that's a healthy dessert just because it's made with dates and nuts and that sort of thing. And it's like you're just consuming calories, and what are you actually, and how much of it are you consuming? I mean, no wonder it's all sitting there, in your stomach. It's like it's surprisingly, there's a lot of people that just have forgotten to be aware of when you consume food.
Well, it trips me out, and then when you really think about the fact that your body is making itself literally from what you are eating.
Yeah.
Like there is a process that happens where it's turning the food you're eating into yourself. So like, if it's crap that you're eating, it's going to have a hard time.
Well, it's like that saying is, you are what you eat.
Yeah,
you really are.
And people go, yeah. But no, when you actually think about that, that's what's going on. Your body's turning that into you.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that's the thing that I make a real effort to help people do. Is just be aware of that.
Yeah.
And look, I do it with myself as well. There's nothing worse than consuming something and actually not being present to it while you're consuming it. Like, I'm sure you've done it, I've done it, where I've eaten something and
pound something down.
Did I just eat that whole thing?
Yeah.
I wasn't even aware of it. But even with that, the psychology that happens with that, like if you actually pay attention and you take your time and you taste and you consume and you allow it to yourself to experience that, your digestion is better. Whereas if you just eat and not think about it and just eat to consume to get fuel into you, it's like, it's almost as if the body's like, whoa, that's shit. This is overload. And like, now I've got to digest everything.
Yes.
Because you probably weren't aware that you just completely breathed that whole steak in without actually doing, it's crazy, but it's conscious eating.
Yeah.
I think it's important to do that.
You know what's something that made me become so aware of eating consciously is fasting.
Yeah.
Have you ever done any fasting?
Yeah, I do it. It's funny that you asked that, because I do that naturally. I've always done it naturally.
Like intermittent fasting?
Yeah, I always did it just because that's where my body, my body and my mind just work better that way.
Sure.
But now, obviously there's a lot of science behind it now. So yeah. So you fast, yeah?
Well, I've done, I'm not at the moment, but I've done a fair bit of intermittent fasting where I would do I got to a point where I was sitting at about a 6-hour eating window throughout the day. So I'd go till about 1 or 2 p.m. without eating anything. And then have my last meal about 7.
Yeah.
6 o'clock.
Look, there's a lot of benefits to that. Look, some people go extreme, and I think
some people do this 1 hour a day. And they just eat as much as they can and need to.
Look,
hardcore.
I think it's very individual. I think if that's what your body works well with, then by all means do it. I think it's most people will do that simply because they read an article or they listen to a doctor who's got credentials, but it's not for everybody.
No,
everyone's completely.
It's hard work.
It's everyone. If you don't feel good, look, I get it to a certain extent. You will go through a process where you might not feel good because you're detoxing certain things, and I get it. But if it's continuous and you just never see any benefits, then your body's trying to tell you this shit doesn't work.
Just punishing yourself.
You need to pay attention. Maybe you only do 2 hours of fasting. Maybe don't do 12. You gotta I'm different. Your body's trying to tell you no, that shit may work for her or for him, but not for me. And I think that's where it's important to be aware about what you're eating, because you do. It's like, how do you feel after you've eaten this? Do you feel heavy? Do you feel light? Do you feel energized? Do you feel tired? Because there's just certain things that certain people can't digest.
And you may not be paying attention enough to know for years. You may go years without even observing. I have a problem with gluten, or I have a problem with dairy, or something like that. I've actually noticed recently that I have an issue with processed sugar and alcohol causing me asthma.
Interesting.
And I've only just, because I've changed the way that I breathe, and I've been talking about this loads and getting off asthma medication. But that I've found kind of triggers my breathing.
Right.
And a tightness in my breathing.
It makes sense. It makes, because that's a form of inflammation, and it makes complete sense. But I'm big on breath work. I think it's a fascinating field. And I think it does so much for so many things. It's definitely important. But when you think about it, what is breath work? It's being conscious of your body.
Yeah.
When you're listening to yourself breathe and the different tones and the different speeds, it's becoming aware and allowing your body to produce, what it needs internally.
Yes.
But it's an amazing thing. It's pretty incredible.
Have you ever done a water fast?
You know what? I've never done a water fast. I've done a juice fast, which was probably the worst thing I could have ever done.
Really?
Yeah.
I've done a juice fast. It was fucking hard. It was awful.
Yeah, it wasn't, because my head was cloudy, and also, depending on what types of juices and how you consume them, it would cause a lot of insulin spikes. And I would just have these downs, and
I had to give up mine.
I'm just like, no, this is not working for me. Which, there's certain clients that I work with. I kind of help them I have created some juice recipes, right? But because I'm quite familiar with the glycemic index, because my father's diabetic.
Yeah, right.
I know a lot about it. So what I tend to do is if I do incorporate any kind of juices with clients, I always add fat to it, because fat slows down the burning of the sugar in the body. So it does stabilize your blood sugar when you add a fat element to it.
Right.
So generally when I've done that, for example, like if I've done a green juice of some sort, I'll add different types of, I'll have a nice balance of some fruits, some vegetables, and then I'll add, some kind of a fat to it, whether it's, MCT oil or coconut oil or olive oil.
Sure.
Or flaxseed oil.
Yeah, right. Purely for the body.
It just allows the body to stabilize itself, so you're not getting these downs after you've consumed it.
Yeah.
Because they do serve a purpose. And look, sometimes I even make juices without actually using a juicer. I blend it so you can get the fiber. But yeah, look, I think when I did that juice fast, did not feel good.
Me either, man. I was aiming for 5 days.
Yeah.
And my wife got to 5. I got to 3, and I was like, I can't do it.
Yeah.
I felt like I had the flu. I was in a horrible state. What happened to you?
Well, yeah, it's pretty much the same thing. I just felt terrible. I couldn't think.
Yeah.
Low energy, moody. Like, I get it. Like, if it's sometimes you do have to go through that. But if if it goes beyond, I also think it depends on what the state of your body is. Not everyone needs these harsh techniques. I think it really does. Like, I've always eaten healthy. I mean, I grew up in Spain. It's Mediterranean diet.
Yeah.
I grew up eating all different types of meat, fish, seafood, balance of grains and vegetables. Rarely did I have fast food. As a kid, I think I had, I got to experience McDonald's once every 2 months or something like that. Now it's different. Kids are eating it every week. But I think my diet's always been good. So I've never felt the need to put my body through such conditions.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people do it because they feel that they need to. I honestly don't think so. And you need to listen to your body. If it just doesn't feel good, it doesn't feel good. What do you think people did? Like, what do you think the Romans did? They fasted because they needed to. They had no other option.
Yeah, that's true.
It's like, I'm going to go on a juice diet. Like, well, wait a minute. We haven't had any meat in months. What do you mean? Or we've got meat now. What do you mean you're going to do it?
Yeah. It wasn't like not optional fasting.
Like, wait a minute. No, we
Sorry,
got
guys.
what we can consume. But it's interesting because you look at these, especially like the Romans, back then, they consume whatever they could and whatever they could forage, whether it's, if they would hunt for meat and it was accessible, they would eat meat. Not, they would travel and they would eat fruits and forage fruits and different leaves. And then when they got to where they needed to be, then sometimes there was grains and that sort of thing. But it's never been like, fasting has never been something that you had to do.
Yeah.
Which is why I think that you need to, I think it just depends on the level of how your body is.
Yeah.
That's really an indicator of how how and what you should do. Right?
Yeah, and I think that there's maybe these days there is so much junk that we're putting into our bodies that we probably do need to do things like fasting or some kind of cleansing thing to be able to help our bodies clear out some of this junk.
Yeah,
I don't know anything about colonic irrigation. Well, some people swear about it.
That's another thing. It's a touchy subject because look, I guess it depends on your past.
Yeah.
What you've eaten. If you've eaten shit most of your life, well, hell, I would think that you need some serious cleaning, deep cleaning.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I don't feel there's a need for it. I've never done one, but I like you, I've heard people talk about it and say, "Oh my God, it's the most incredible thing."
Yeah.
Kind of makes me wonder, well, how was your body before? It might have been really in a bad state.
Yeah.
Because I do know that if you do too much of that, it depletes your body of its natural ability to digest and that sort of thing. So you just like when you take antibiotics, you ruin your body's ability. The probiotics are just destroyed.
Yeah.
Your natural, ability to digest and immune system goes down if you take antibiotics. So the same thing. If you do too much of that, it causes the same thing.
Yeah.
So I think it just depends on, how what your history
what
is.
The state of health you're in before.
Exactly.
Yeah. And just going back to water fasting, when I did that, I've done. I think I only did that about 2 or 3 days. So just literally drinking water, and it's an interesting state of mind. It's a legitimately altered state of consciousness.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And I think the thing that's so, and people do weeks.
Yeah.
And these are people that need that, like they're
sure.
And there are stories of miraculous healing. From this. There are stories of people who have had scars on their body, and after doing like 3 weeks of this water fast, the scars tissue's gone. Their body's been able to go into, what's the term called? I can't remember, but it's autophagy. I don't know how to say it. But it's eating and processing dead tissue in your body. But anyway, the point I'm getting at is that when you don't eat any food and have any calories, the relationship that I got, at least, to food was really beautiful. It was really fascinating to go. First I was thinking, wow, just look at how much time I spend on food, thinking about food and taking it for granted. And then 2, not paying attention to that food that I'm spending all this time working on, and not appreciating what I need to be eating and how it's affecting me. When you don't have any food and you do that for a little while, you can kind of go, oh, mate, like I've got this problem where there's a plate of food in front of me, I have to eat it all. Doesn't matter how hungry I am or how full I am, I have to eat it all. I can't, and to bring myself to put it in the bin, like I can't do it. But I've got to get better at that, man.
No, I hear you. I think it's also depends on a lot of it does depend on how you grew up as well. If you grew up in a family culture of that, like for us, we all sat around the table. Eating for us was a big deal. And again, we didn't have a lot of money, but it was a big deal because my grandfather would cook. He was the main guy that taught me how to cook. It was always a celebration. So we were kind of forced to pay attention to what we ate, and also just slow down the experience. Rather than like, I need to eat and consume and then go. Or there was very much a family and social aspect of it. That was the time that we had to sit down and talk. And socialize, which is again, eating food there's always been a big social aspect to it all. That's how different cultures have grown and evolved.
There's a fair bit of science that's come out that actually says that is so good for you to do that communally, to eat communally with loved ones, and to kind of slow down and do that. There's like scientific evidence that is showing how good that is for a person.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that's how cultures have thrived, by doing that, by and also how other cultures have been introduced to other cultures and understanding each other's traditions. And that's, that's what creates societies. And I think it's important to do that. And we've lost that, Like there's a lot of, like I've spoken to a lot of families who've got kids and stuff. And look, obviously now, a lot of people nowadays, both the mother and the father have to work, and it's complicated a lot of things where it's like some families don't even have the time or the ability to sit down and have a proper meal together. It's like either the kids first and then the adults, or people are standing up doing this. It's just chaos because that's just the world we live in at the moment. We're constantly moving and trying to do certain things. So a lot of people have lost that, and there's some that still practice it. But I do believe that it is important to do that. If you can do that, is establish that and have that. It's a very sacred experience to be able to sit down with your family and have a meal and actually be present to them and to what you're consuming and to yourself, and it does make a huge difference.
I agree.
It's important. I think it's crucial that we do that. And we're losing that. I mean, look how difficult it is. Like we're becoming less and less social creatures.
Yeah,
with social media,
it's the most
we're becoming more isolated in a world where we have access to everything in every form of communication.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, we're going forward and backwards at the same time.
Yeah, man. Going back to that primal stuff of sharing a meal together. Like I think that's I really hope you can get this show going, man. I'd love to watch it. Just observing people who they'll spend the day.
Yeah.
That's what their day is preparing the meal.
Yeah.
And like getting the ingredients, preparing the ingredients, and then sitting down and eating the meal for the day. That's their whole day.
Yeah.
Well, what a purpose to feed your family.
Yeah, but imagine how special that must have felt hundreds of years ago when the man would go out and hunt or farm or whatever, and then the woman would stay behind, take care of the kids and do all the work that needed to be done in the house. And then they would come together after the day of long work, and they would all sit together and they would consume what they brought to the house. And they had this beautiful kind of, it must have been such an incredible thing. Obviously,
working as a unit.
But obviously there's a lot of challenges and suffering that happened because of poverty and whatnot. But for the most part, when you think about it, that was the most special moments. Like regardless of how long the man was away, and they would all come back and everyone would sit together and they would consume this beautiful meal, no matter how big or small it was. And it's always been an important thing to really look at and appreciate when it comes to that. Again, that's what eating is all about. Food, the way we eat is the most visual DNA that I can think of. You know what I mean? And you can see how and what we've done with the world and society and cultures is by our food. It's crazy. But we've it's going both ways. I think we've lost a lot of it, but at the same time we're becoming aware of it again. It's this weird kind of intersection. And look, I can see both sides of it. Like I understand why certain restaurants do buy the cheapest they could possibly get so that they can serve as this many people or that many people, just so they can make the profit they need to make. And I get that. But that's where I think that, especially after what's happened the last few years, I think that's going to be tougher and tougher to achieve, especially with all the all the different, so many people are getting sick and our immune system is weakening, and I think we've got to find a better way. I think it's hard enough financially to have to run a restaurant that feeds 350 people.
Yeah.
But I think that more and more that's where I think it's going to go. I think people are going to be focused less on quantity and focus more on quality. Hopefully, that's the ultimate goal.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, it's been interesting.
It's a beautiful vision to have, and it's interesting. It certainly appears as though, if you want to eat consciously, that's kind of how you have to do it.
Yeah.
And because there's more to it than just I'm hungry and I eat. Yeah. There's more to it than that.
Yeah.
And the way that it affects you and your body and the people around you. Yeah. And there's it can become it's bigger than that.
Yeah. It most certainly is.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's been an interesting journey with it all, and I think it's going to get better. It is getting better. But a lot of chefs are taking note of that and realizing that they have a much bigger responsibility.
They're just serving up some food.
It really is about.
It's much more of a provider role, isn't it? Providing,
being a teacher of sorts. Yeah, it really is. Because I think it's going to get to the point where we're going to have to grow our own food. You know what would be, and I'm sure this exists, but I'd love to go to a restaurant where you don't choose what you eat. You turn up, and I'm like, I'm at the hands of Serge, and my wife and I sit down, and you bring food out. Look, there's a few that do that.
Because it's what I trust that you know what you're doing.
It makes sense. Like, for example, there is this French chef who I've always been a huge fan of. His name is Pascal Barbeau. He's got an incredible restaurant in Paris where it's exactly that. There's no menu, and he gets his produce. He himself goes at 4 in the morning to get the produce.
Wow.
Whatever is available that day. He's always at the mercy of the farmers. Whatever's there, that's what he brings back to the kitchen. There's no menu that's written ever. Brings all the produce back, sits with the chefs and goes over everything and like, all right, let's see what we got. And like, well, we can do this, we can do that with that, and that, and then that's when they write the menu.
That's exciting.
And then it's crazy. And the beauty about that is he's instilled this creative adaptation that's where the chefs have freedom to pretty much do whatever they want, utilizing the best ingredients. So it's an incredible restaurant. It's called L'Estrance, and it's definitely one of my most favorite restaurants I've ever been to. And he does exactly that, and it's amazing. So you go there, you never know what you're going to get.
Wow.
Because the chef doesn't know until that morning.
He's just figuring it out.
It's crazy. And I believe I may be wrong. There might be a couple others now, but I do remember that I think his restaurant was the only restaurant that had Michelin stars that didn't have a menu. Because generally, when you get these accolades, you get these people, these writers or whatever, go in there and kind of have this experience and write about it, and then they, you either get awarded this accolade or you don't. But a lot of the times it's programmed in a way where they know what they're getting, they know what to expect, or they have this idea of what to expect because of all the talk and all the buzz. But because his place didn't have a menu, it was just, it's like, shit.
I love that.
Know what to expect.
It's turning the whole experience on its head, It's we're talking, why not trust that the person driving the bus is better at driving the bus than me? Yeah. I don't know. Well, I don't know what the best, I didn't know any of this stuff about, like what you're talking about with tomatoes. Like, I trust that you're going to be able to serve me better tomatoes than I am. Yeah. If I'm like, I want the tomatoes, you're like, no. Yeah. It's not tomato time. Yeah. Tomato time's in a couple of months. No tomatoes for you. Yeah. But have this because it's going to be fucking awesome.
Yeah. Well, there's another place, I forget where it was. There's a place that does another thing that's cooler and crazier, but or the restaurant's kind of like a market. Where you walk in and it's got a market feel to it, but the kitchen sits in the middle and the customers come in. They choose their ingredients. It's all displayed. The chef has chosen the best stuff that they've been able to get for that day.
Right.
And it's displayed for the client to come in like, oh, I want that, and I want that, and I want that. They usually tell you, okay, well, you're here to eat, 3-course meal. You have in each meal you've got the selection of these. So you choose which one, and we make it for you like that.
Oh, wow.
That's it. That's it.
So the chef throws it together going, okay, this is what you want, these 4 things, and I'm going to make you something.
And I just make something with it.
Wow.
And I thought that's amazing.
That's very interesting, isn't it?
And again, you look at that, something like that you wouldn't be able to mass produce. You can't. How can you? It's something like that isn't about numbers. It's about quality. And the consistency is easier to achieve if you do allow that breathing room of, okay, the chef has gone and gotten the best ingredients, and it's the only thing available right now. You're not getting anything else. He's quite familiar with it because of what it is, who grew it, and where it's from. And the only thing he's got to work with is that. Yeah. And he's got the skill he or she's got the skill, and they're going to cook that for you. Yeah, and that's how it should be.
I think people will. I think people would love that kind of thing. Because it's such an exciting experience to go, I'm at the hands of an expert here. Yeah. And they know what they're doing with this food. Yeah. And I know that no matter what's put in front of me, it's going to be amazing. Yeah. And the people who aren't in that don't go.
Yeah. Well, it's like you wouldn't ask, like a builder to make you something, and then you tell them, well, I don't want it like that. I want you to utilize something else. Yeah. You're not going to tell like someone who makes furniture, like, I want you to make me this chair, but don't use wood. Use something else. Wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. Or you can only use these tools. Well, you're not going to tell them to do that. Yeah. You're just going to trust them.
Go to a concert. Yeah. The guitar player starts doing a solo. Yeah, exactly. Go, no, I want you to play. Don't do that scale.
Play in a different key.
Play a different key. Yeah. No, trust that they.
But that's the thing. Yeah. It's exactly the same way. And
serve up what it's like. Serve me for what you are.
But that's the way it was in the beginning. Yeah. Because the whole restaurant idea came from France. Okay. And the whole idea was, okay, well, because typically a chef was only for royalty hundreds of years ago. Wow. Right? And then finally, what started to happen is, anybody who had this ability to cook would started to kind of understand that this was something that needed to be shared and set in an environment so that more people can enjoy it, not just royalty. Mm-hmm. So cooks started to do these things where they would invite people into their home, and their wives or daughters or whatnot would help, and they would serve, and they would treat them like they were guests in their own home. Mm. And that's how the whole kind of idea of restaurants came to be, where you had people come into your home and you took care of them. And they just ate what you provided. Whatever you grew in your land is what you offered. And people would come from all over the place, and they would go there and sit, and you would eat this meal. Mm. That's how the whole thing started. Mm. And that's how it should be today. Mm. It's like you look. Obviously, you've got people like you could have a group of people. One person's a vegan, one person is just a meat eater, the other person doesn't eat this, that. That's fine. But like if you go to a restaurant, you know exactly that what they serve as far as ingredients. Well, this place does everything: vegetables, fish, meat. Well, I only eat vegetables, but I know that they're going to have a selection of vegetables that I can choose. Well, you just let them do what they know how to do. Yeah. But it's when you give, when you start putting too many choices onto a menu, no matter what the circumstances are, no matter if the product is shit, because you never know, that maybe it was a really rainy season and the farmer couldn't get the best quality out of a certain vegetable or fruit, but you're still serving it because people expect that, and that's the problem with having a menu. It's like you just never know. Like you can have a menu, but something you may not be able to have access to that one thing.
Yeah, food fluctuates.
Well, exactly. Yeah, so you and look, there are some restaurants out there that do that. Not a lot of them. There should be more. I wish there were more. But for the most part, you go to any restaurant, there's always going to be a menu, which is fine. But it's think of all the paper that you're using to change everything all the time. And I remember a lot of places in France, they don't even bother with paper menus. They just have a chalkboard and just here's what we caught today or what we have today. Yeah, that's it. That's all. That's what you have to choose from.
Maybe what we should start doing is when you go to a restaurant, you talk to if the waiter, and that is if they know, because there's some waiters who are just there to get paid and go home. They don't really care about the menu. But if they know about it, or you could even ask them, could you ask the chef what they think is the best thing tonight or today, and I'll have that. And don't tell me what it is. I just want what at the moment in the kitchen is the best thing that they're going to prepare the best. I'll have that.
Yeah, I always do that. Well, I always, whenever I go to a restaurant, I always kind of like I'll look at the menu and see what's on offer. But I always kind of like to be like, all right, look, what do you think is good, or what does the chef think is good? And I'm like, all right, well, this, and this. Like, all right, perfect, I'll try that. Look, I love to eat. I love to eat fine dining, and I also love to go to hole in the walls in different parts of the world. I have it doesn't matter what kind of food it is. I love good food. When I do go to a nice fine dining restaurant, I kind of just let the chef do whatever they want. Like, let's just bring out whatever you think is great. Whatever you think is beautiful, that's what I want to try. I'm not here. It's great that you're offering this, but I trust you.
Food.
Yeah, I trust you. And if if there's anything that I'm not, look, thankfully I'm not allergic to anything, so I normally don't have any problems with that. But if you're someone that does have allergies to something, well, it's easy to say, well, look, I can't have this.
But it's not the style of ordering.
Well, exactly. But it's aside from this, do whatever you want.
Yeah.
But I think, look, there's something for everyone. Obviously, if you want to have, it's also a cultural thing. If you want to go to a Vietnamese restaurant and have a nice bowl of pho, when it's cold outside, it's perfect. Or if you want ramen, obviously you go for ramen and you know what to expect. But I've noticed that a lot of people who go there and who are very strict about how they eat and what they eat, and they just try to manipulate the whole menu, and then they make it frustrating for everyone working there. I'm thinking that's not the way it works. If you're that,
there's no trust in.
No, if you feel you need to do that, then why are you going to a restaurant?
Yeah.
And a lot of people will say, well, look, I'm the one paying for it. Like, I get that. But, it's like you're basically telling the chefs how to cook something. Like, it's like, do the research before you go, and as long as you know that everything's being properly sourced, then, you should allow someone to cook something for you, to nurture you. But, look, there are some people that
if you're a control freak, you're gonna have a hard time.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, there's been a lot of chefs who have had some serious problems with that. There was a chef here in Australia that had an encounter with someone where, I forget what restaurant it was. It was a pretty well-known restaurant. Someone who was vegan came into his restaurant, and realized that there wasn't a lot of vegetarian options. So she got very upset with the restaurant and then ended up writing a review that completely did some damage to it, saying it's an overpriced restaurant, they don't have any vegan options. I ordered a plate of broccolini and it was just plain steamed broccoli and nothing else, and I couldn't eat anything. And I'm thinking, why'd you go there in the first place? And then the crazy thing was, this chef, it was pretty ballsy of him to do this, but he just didn't care. He said, you know what? You respected me and my staff. We're clearly not a vegan restaurant, but you managed to tear us apart. So he's banned all vegans from his restaurant. I'm like, that is amazing. Like, wow. That's, that is a ballsy move. And look, I can understand why.
Yeah.
I would never go to a vegan restaurant and expect, why is there no meat on the menu?
Yeah, I eat meat. Why is there no meat?
Like, you should have meat for somebody who eats meat.
Yeah.
When you put
it like that, you can see how ridiculous it is on the other side.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And it's like, it would be the same exact thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or going to a pizza joint and requesting a hamburger. Well, like, what are you here for?
I want I'd like a hamburger. Well, thank you.
That's not the way
how dare
it works.
you deprive me of a hamburger?
Look, some people are just very entitled and they they're very hardcore when it comes to their reasons for eating the way they do, which look, everyone's entitled to eat the way they want and believe what they want, but you gotta have some respect for that.
But there is something that happens too that, I don't know if you've ever experienced this because you're probably always in the kitchen, but when you are serving people food, there are some people who treat you like a slave.
Yeah.
There's this kind of they are, especially in the States, I notice this because it's a tipping culture.
Yeah.
So you it's hard not to fall into behaving like the slave, the servant, because you have to please them in order to earn your money. You're getting paid $11 an hour.
Yeah.
That's not going to cut it. You are living off your tips.
Sure.
So the servers, they bend over backwards for these people, and there are some people who really manipulate that and take advantage of that, and they treat you like a slave. And it's a very interesting thing because it's just food.
Yeah.
It's you're there to have a meal.
Yeah.
This isn't kings and queens.
No, exactly. Well, look, unfortunately, some people still kind of believe that, but it's no, you're right. I think it's you go to a restaurant in Mexico City, for example. The waiters there get paid very well. It's a profession for them. It's not. Right. It's not a pit stop. They're not doing it just so they can do other things.
Right. It's like every server in LA.
No, it's an actual profession.
Yeah.
So they're masters at what they do. They're so cool. It's amazing how they do it, and it's so fluid, and they exude coolness because they do it so amazing and so perfect, and they're there to serve you and give you and allow you to have a great time. They're there to help you and make you feel amazing. But there's never any, and a lot of people will notice that, and they won't take advantage. At least most people won't take advantage of that. They realize how incredible and flawless these servers are. So there's an admiration that comes from it. Whereas, like if some people go to a place and they'll treat a server like garbage, and that's where I'm very, very sensitive and protective of anyone in hospitality because I've done it all my life.
Yeah.
And
you know what the grind on the other side is like, and it's a hard gig, man.
It is. So I've had to say a few words, at times to certain people, just because of the disrespect. And it's a tough job. It's demanding. It's long hours on your feet. Granted, look, there's some servers that probably don't give a shit. They're just there for the paycheck. They don't care about the customers. Totally. There's that as well. But the ones that are truly happy to be there, and whether it's a temporary job or not, and they thoroughly enjoy the process and the food culture and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I think that's when and then you realize that what they're getting paid is really nothing. So for someone to really,
for the amount of work it takes.
For someone to disrespect that and just expect, well, I'm paying, so they deserve to serve me. Well, that's not the. That's
you're confused. They're not a servant.
You're not. Yeah. Well, this isn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. This isn't. Yeah. You're looking at it the wrong way. We all consume food. You just happen to be here. Someone who's doing it for you and offering it for you, making sure that you feel good. And by you treating them like shit, you're not going to get anything better out of it. By insulting them, you're not going to get anything better out of it. So I think I've always been very, very sensitive to that and very protective of that.
Yes.
Which is why when I go out to dinner, I'm always I understand. I realize what's going on, both front and back.
Yeah. I bet that there are a lot of times when you can observe what's going on in the room, and you can go, they're having a hard time in the kitchen right now.
Man.
So
crazy. Yeah.
Because things can back up, right?
Yeah. And look, I guess also for me, it's easy for me to know that, which is why I kind of become helpful in a way. Like, oh, look, don't worry, I'll wait for that, or I get it. Yeah. How about I just do something else? And I'm very, I know when something is just when the shit hits the fan, and something's going on.
Yeah.
So I back down and I kind of make them feel at ease. Like, it's all good. I understand. Trust me. I've been in the business.
Yeah.
But a lot of people
do you want
don't.
me to get on?
Yeah, I know. It's like, should I go back there?
Yeah.
No, it's
an extra set of hands.
Yeah. A lot of people don't.
Tongs.
Yeah, I know. But a lot of people don't, and But I think it's important to really be respectful of that more. It's yes, you're always going to have someone who doesn't care and just wants to get you in and out.
Yeah.
They don't give a shit.
Yeah.
But hopefully if you run your business properly, you won't get those people. You won't hire those. You want people who are welcoming.
And I guess it's coming back to this. There's such a dynamic between the different types of the ways that people can feel about food. There's just like, eat something because I'm hungry. And then there's this other end of the spectrum, which is local ingredients, in-season ingredients, prepared with mindfulness to be healthy, to be fulfilling, by people who care about it. Like these are not the same thing.
Yeah.
Even though you're still eating.
Yeah.
These are drastically different experiences.
Yeah, totally, man. That's
trying to find these places, but obviously there's you got to pay for it because it is more of an experience.
Yeah, it is. But but it's still something that look, we do during the pandemic when everything closed down. We realized how important it was to dine out because because of that social aspect. I mean, I remember when everything reopened, people just fled to all the restaurants. They were getting in there because they missed that.
And they didn't know how much they missed.
It's crazy, yeah. And look, I've spoken to a lot of people who, maybe were rude in the past to certain servers or whoever, and they thought, holy shit, I'll never do that again.
Took that for granted.
It's like that whole world, I missed that so much. That being around people who were genuinely happy to have you there and serve you and help you have a good time. Like, that was very special. And we were all stuck in our homes, isolated. I mean, we realize the importance of this, being social,
having a drink, and having some food,
and having that community.
Yeah.
So I think it's changed a lot. So now people are definitely more respectful. Yeah, things have gotten more expensive, but that's a whole other thing that's happened. But yeah, man, I think it's changing. I really do. I think it's changing, and I think more people are making an effort to help change it.
Yeah.
Even if you're not in hospitality, I think people are becoming aware of the importance of just being more respectful to what we have available.
Yeah.
I think it is. It's people are very aware, a lot more aware now than we've ever been before. I think it's good. I think that we're hopefully we keep going in a good direction with ours.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you speak really well about it. You speak really passionately about it. You know what this stuff. You know food, and it's cool to hear you to have a conversation with you about the depth that it goes to, and understanding how it is just more. It is more than just putting some stuff on a plate that tastes good. Yeah. There's more to it, and your role, hearing that you are learning that your role has to develop into something a bit more all-encompassing about where the food comes from, how that's going to work for your body. Yeah. That's exciting, man. And it's like, I think that is something that people can go, oh, I don't know that stuff, and I want to trust you with that.
Yeah.
I want to come and eat your food, or I want to take the philosophy that you're talking about because that does make a lot of sense. It's not just, I know how to make delicious food.
Yeah, right.
There's there's some basically paint by numbers that anyone can really do that.
Yeah.
You just add stuff that's not good.
Yeah.
Stuff that's not good. Put some MSG in it, But this almost holistic way of preparing food and understanding where the food comes from.
Yeah.
It's very intriguing, man. So thanks for coming and sharing it with me, dude.
Absolutely. It was my pleasure, man.
Yeah.
Definitely,
We'll talk about food all day, right?
We definitely can.
Yeah.
Talk about a lot of stuff.
Where can people find you, man?
Look, right now, I'm actually with my agency. It's vivant.com.au.
Cool.
And it's an agency where I'm focusing on getting a bunch of highly skilled chefs to help me in offering what we do with our skill to help actors and entertainers with their diets and that sort of thing. We also do a lot of collaborations with different brands and doing dinners with, whether it's a fashion brand or Veuve Clicquot, that sort of thing. We're doing a lot of collaborations with brands. Then we're working a lot with people who are in the entertainment industry and giving them the science and everything that we've learned throughout the years with food and cooking and helping them achieve whatever goals that they need to do. So that's what I'm doing at the moment. And and you can follow my Instagram as well. It's Sergio.Perera.
Yeah. You got some great stuff on there.
Yeah, man. So a lot of the stuff that I'm doing, you'll see there, like a lot of stuff that I'm working on with my cookbook and, certain recipes that I'm doing. And, you'll be able to see a lot of the recipes that I'm creating at the moment. And I've got a lot of future things to work with different people, different farmers, different artists. I think my main goal is to be able to kind of I would love to be able to somehow collaborate and bring together food, art, and music. I'm still trying to figure out how to do that, but it's all there on my Instagram, and I'll be slowly putting things on the website, and go from there.
Awesome, dude. I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with your Instagram because there's no smellogram or tasteogram, and you make these things that are just like, and I see your face when you eat them, like, fuck, you've searched it.
That's genuine. I'm like, look, and it's fun because I do all these videos myself. It's not like I have a crew of people helping me.
Yeah.
But it's so much fun doing it, and all of the stuff that I use on these videos, it's just people that I know, local.
Right.
Just what it's fun. Yeah. That alone is insane. So I love doing that, man. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
Nice, brother.
Yeah,
cheers, man.
Oh, thanks for awesome, man. Yeah, it's so much fun.
Anytime, dude.
For sure.
See you, everyone.
All right.